All right, everyone. So again, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you all for joining. My name is Vikas, and I would be basically, taking you through the VMware course. And we would be talking about all the things, and we will be starting from the scratch. We will cover all the points, each and everything. How do you set up your lab? So anything and everything, we will be talking about it. Okay. Now, my humble request is that this training is for you. Okay. So please ask as many questions as you have. Okay. My intention is that you should understand what I'm telling you in the training. If you do not understand, then there is no point in having this training. So if you have any questions at any point of time, just feel free to unmute yourself and ask a question. Okay. Do not wait for me to complete the topic and then you would ask questions. Just interrupt me and ask the question. So let me take the questions while we are going along so that I keep clearing your doubts. Now, this is a Zoom call. Okay. I don't see you, you don't see me. Okay. So if you do not ask a question, I will assume that you have understood. Okay, there is no way for me to figure out that whether have you understood or not. The only way is that if you ask questions. If you do not ask questions, I would assume that you have understood the topic and I should proceed to the next one. So whatever it is, just ask questions. Make it interactive so that you get the most of the out of the training. Okay. Now, a quick intro about myself. So I have been working in IT for close to about 20 plus years now. Okay. I have been working on VMware technology since 2010. So it's been a long time that I've been working on VMware. And VMware is basically my bread and butter. Okay. So it's not like I have read VMware or I have, just gone through the technology in a month's time and then I'm teaching you. Absolutely not. I have been working on VMware technology since 2010, and I've seen a lot of version changes. I've been in different positions, for VMware technology. So I understand from a support admin, from the consulting point of view, all these aspects of VMware. Okay. So, couple of things. So when we talk about VMware, VMware has been acquired by a company called Broadcom. Okay. So now Broadcom is basically the one that controls or manages VMware. Okay. They have made some changes, and the biggest and the best change that they have made is that earlier, to give the certification, you had to take an official training. But now there is no need for you to take an official training. Okay. So whenever you are comfortable with the technology, you have to pay an amount of $250. Okay. And after that, you can register for the exam, which is the VCP, VMware Certified Professional for Data Center Virtualization track, and you can appear for the exams. Okay. This is a multiple choice questions exam. You will have 4 options to pick from, and that is how the paper is. Okay. So this is what the certification is that we are targeting. Now, let me quickly tell you that what are the things that we will be covering in the course. Okay. So let me paste a quick URL over here so that you have an understanding that what I am going to cover over here. So I will be basically covering these topics over here. So let me come back. Okay. So these are all the topics that I would be covering in my training. So this is as per the VMware official curriculum that you should know how to install, configure ESXi, vCenter, how to log in, create networking, storage, virtual machines, templates, all these things that they have talked about, HADRS and upgrading. We will be going through each one of them. Okay, so we will be basically covering all the options over here. We are not going to skip any one of them. Okay, there are few things which are not mentioned over here. We will be even covering those points as well. Okay, now yours is not the first batch that I'm giving the training. Okay, so it's not like that you are the first guys I'm giving you the training. I have been giving training since 2015. Okay, so I've taught, I don't know how many folks, but I think approximately close to about 800 folks or 900 folks I would have taught. This is my rough assumption. Yeah. So yeah, I know a few things about VMware, and I think I would be able to share all those details with you. Okay. Now, the other thing that I would like to focus on is that, like I mentioned, for the certification, VMware has basically done away with the training part. So you do not have to worry about the training. This is the certification that we are eyeing over here. So let me quickly share the URL with you over here.
Because why it is not budget friendly, the certification? If you see the other, like AWS and Azure, they have very limited fees for the
I
certification.
I understand, but I mean, I don't know what the intention is of the Broadcom management, but this is what the fee says, $250. I mean, trust me, it has come down. Earlier, you had to take an official training, and that official training used to cost about minimum $1,000. And then, you were, eligible to give the paper. So I think they have brought down the price, and without, you have to take the training. So if you see over here, now they basically say that this is recommended. It is not required. Earlier, it used to be that you have to complete this training. It was a requirement, and then only you could do this. But now this is a recommendation, so this is fair enough, and this is the price that they have. I agree, it should have been $150, but that's the way it is.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so let's move along. Okay, now all
Sorry,
the
before you,
things.
sorry, before you
Mhm,
move, I just want to ask a question.
go for it.
Uh, so what's the future of VMware? Like looking at all this technology coming out now, Azure, cloud, and other technologies. So looking at the employment market, so what's the future actually? Is it going to stay or is it going to go away sometimes?
So VMware is here to stay. I mean, I'll be honest with you. You talk about Cisco. I mean, when cloud came out, everyone was like that, why would you buy a physical switch? And there is no need because cloud is over here. Now you answer the question, has Cisco died? Is Cisco not available? Cisco is still there. I mean, Cisco is still making money, right? So that's with every technology. You talk about Citrix. I mean, why do you need a Citrix when you have cloud and cloud is offering all the functionalities of a desktop virtualization, a load balancer. So why do you need Citrix? But again, Citrix is here doing well. So same is applicable with every company. I mean, these are huge ships, and they're not going to die off very soon. So similarly, it is with VMware. Now with VMware, you need to understand this is a one-stop shop. So if I take you to vmware.com website, and if I show you that the products that they have, so if you see all products, so they have 78 products. VMware as a technology has 78 products, and all 78 products, if you scroll through the list, you would see that they are in app volumes, which is application virtualization. They are into automation, they are into orchestration. They can do logs, networking, endpoint security. They can do software-defined networking. They are in the cloud. They can do edge for you. They can migrate the VMs. They can do Tanzu, SD-WAN. They can do Kubernetes for you. I mean, they can do telco for you. You name it. Whatever technology you want, and VMware has an answer for you. Okay. So there are a lot of competitors out there in the market. So if you take an example that, Ford makes cars and Chevrolet also makes cars. And then you've got Hyundai also making cars. So you would think that, when you have a company making cars, why are others making cars? I mean, of course, that's the beauty of market. That's the beauty of healthy competition. That, you have so many players out there and you can pick anyone that you feel like. So VMware as a technology is absolutely relevant. It is a one-stop shop. Whatever you think of as a solution point of view, they would have an answer for you. Be it telco, be it storage, networking, be it on the cloud, be it SD-WAN, be it Kubernetes, they have answer for anything and everything. Okay. So that is why I think VMware is very relevant and it is here to stay. And they've also partnered with the cloud. So if you want to run VMware on the cloud, you can absolutely do that. So if I show you over here, you see that, if you want to run VMware on Alibaba, Azure, Google, IBM, Oracle, AWS, you can run, the VMware stack anywhere that you feel like. Okay. So in a nutshell, VMware is here to stay. It's not going away. Okay.
And because
Mhm.
what is Cisco and what is Citrix?
So Cisco is a company that makes physical switches,
Okay.
routers, switches. Okay. You can go to cisco.com and you can check them out, what the products that they make and what they do. Okay. And Citrix is a company that basically gives you softwares which can be used for application virtualization, desktop virtualization, um, hypervisor. So these are all the solutions. So yeah, they can also help you with a lot of things over here. So these are the things that they can help you with. So all these companies, they all make similar softwares. VMware is not the only one who's making hypervisor in the market. There are others as well. Okay. So that is what in healthy competition is. Everyone is selling, everyone is making money. Okay.
Okay.
I have one question.
Go for
So
it.
the licensing is so high on VMware. So how about the other competitors like Proxmox, like who have open source? Like how VMware stands out compared to the others?
So
I
the
know
point,
you have listed out those points, but like in terms of licensing.
sure. So basically, I agree that sometimes you might feel that, the VMware license is on the higher side. I agree to that fact. Now, the question is, think about it for a moment. Linux is for free, right? Anyone can download Linux and anyone can use it. Why are
Yeah.
people still buying Windows 10? Why are people still buying Windows 11? Because this is easy to use. This is user friendly. Tomorrow, if you have issues with an open Linux, whom would you reach out to? Who's going to help you? Forums? No, they're not going to help you. So you need someone, whom you can rely on, whom you can trust that, if I have any issues, I'll reach out to this guy and they would fix the problem because they are the ones who own the application, right? Similarly is the case with the other applications as well. You spoke about Proxmox, okay?
Yeah.
So with Proxmox, the concern is you do a comparison. Okay, I'll buy an Apple iPhone and you buy, any other, a Chinese maker, phones which are very competitive. Okay, and let's do a comparison that what Apple iPhone is offering you and what the other phone is offering you. Apple is on the higher side, absolutely. There's no doubts about it. But look at the features that Apple gives you. Look at the security and all the other things which you might not get on the other side. Okay, so it's basically a comparison. It's about end of the day, whenever a customer is buying something, they basically look at two things. The first thing is the cost. What is your budget? Absolutely. No matter, how much good the product is, if I cannot afford iPhone, I cannot afford iPhone, period. I'm not going to, take it on an EMI or I'm not going to take a loan for, buying an iPhone. Okay. And the second thing is the features. I mean, am I getting the features, close by, or I absolutely need that feature? So basically these two things decide, what you have to go with and which company you would go for. The first is, of course, the cost. And the last point is that whom are you going to get support from? If you use Proxmox, I mean, are you really happy with them? Are they giving you really all the functionalities? How popularly is it being used? Why are people not using it? What are the concerns? So when you start doing an analysis, when you start doing a survey, then you will understand what the challenges are. Okay, you are looking at from a 30,000 feet view that, Proxmox is there. Why should I use VMware? So I would say again, similarly, the same thing for Linux. I mean, Linux is there. Why you should be using Windows 10? Why you should be using Windows 11? So yeah, these things basically contribute. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Thank you.
Vikas, can I ask you one question? So how is this different from other virtualization companies or the competitors that VM has got? What are the pros and cons I'm trying to understand really? How is it different from rest of them?
Okay. So I'll give you an example, okay, and hopefully that should answer your question. VMware, like, on the VMware platform, you create a virtual machine, okay, and on this virtual machine, when it is powered on, you will have one network card connected to it, okay. Now, if you want to add a second network card over here, you can do this while the machine is powered on. You do not have to power it off, okay. This is something that I've been doing on VMware platform since my childhood, okay. Let me do a comparison for Hyper-V. In Hyper-V, the same functionality was rolled out in Hyper-V 2016 for the very first time. If you have Hyper-V 2016, then on that platform, you will be able to add additional network card without powering down the VM. And in VMware, I've been doing this since my childhood. That is the difference, okay? VMware rolled out software-defined networking. I mean, they rolled out another functionality wherein you can control your networking by buying additional software that is called NSX. And this was rolled out in 2013. Microsoft rolled out software-defined networking for the very first time in 2019 version. Okay. So you think about it, what VMware does, people follow that, and they do it years later. Okay. VMware as a brand, as a platform, the kind of features, the kind of stability, the kind of functionality it will provide you, no other vendor would be able to provide you that. Others would absolutely be, trying to come up with that functionality. If Apple launched touch screen for the very first time in 2007, people didn't know, what this, functionality is. But later, everyone started giving you, touch phones. Similarly is the case with VMware. VMware will come up with something, people will look at it, they would analyze, they would say, yeah, this thing works, and we have to also do something about it. And then people will start following VMware. Okay, so yeah, that's in a nutshell that why you should learn VMware.
Okay, so all right. So you're saying it's like a pioneer in the business, and
Absolutely.
oh,
They have monopoly. Like if I talk about that, if you buy a laptop and you have to install an operating system, you would think Windows 10 or Windows 11. If I talk to my father, who is absolutely, non-IT, and if I tell him that, I need a laptop and I have to install operating system, he would also tell me that, go for Microsoft. Why? Because that's easy, that's user friendly. They have a monopoly over that operating system functionality. So that is why, everyone uses it. Okay. So, every company has a monopoly in, some way or the other. So VMware has a monopoly on data center virtualization. You cannot take that away from them, no matter how hard you try.
cool. Thanks, Vikas.
No problem.
Yeah, so
Vikas,
the VMware stack, sorry, you said it works with Azure and AWS and all those cloud providers.
Mhm.
So I'm just thinking how it works. Like, do we need to take your entire infrastructure to the cloud? Like, I'm just kind of confused how the technology really work with the
Okay.
VMware and the cloud. Yeah.
So what would happen is when you have an on-premises data center, in your on-premises data center, what you do, you buy an HP server. Okay. You will buy multiple HP, Dell, IBM, Fujitsu, some server you will buy, some hardware you will buy. On that hardware, you will have a local hard drive. Okay. Every hardware will have a local hard drive. And what you will do is you will install ESXi directly on the hard drive. This is what you will be doing. Okay. And then you are going to create the virtual machines on top of this hardware. Now, this is your on-premises environment. Let's say this is your AT&T data center, or depending on your location, wherever you are, you have a data center. Okay. Now let's flip this. Let's say that now you are in Azure data center. Okay, for example, or you are in AWS data center. So AWS has its own data centers. In AWS data center, you will have a hardware. Okay. Now, every hardware has a model, like the on-prem hardware that you have. This will be called DL380 Generation 11 from HP. So this is the model number of the hardware that you have bought. Similarly, in AWS, the hardware that they have, this is called I3. Then they have another one that's called I3EN, and they have the newest one that is called I4. So this is the hardware options that you have. Okay. Now, if this is a I4 hardware, it will also have a local hard drive, just like as your on-prem environment. Okay. And now what you will do is you will install the ESXi directly on the hardware, just like the way you were doing at your on-prem. Similarly, you will be doing over here as well, that you will be installing ESXi directly on the hard drive. This is a blank hard drive. AWS is not running any application or any software on that hard drive. Okay, be absolutely sure about this. And then you install the ESXi natively on the hard drive. And then you basically access the portal and you create the virtual machines. The way you will manage your environment at the on-prem, similarly, you will be managing on the cloud as well. The only difference is that now on the AWS, you have a load balancer, you have a WAF, you have external storage, you have databases that can all get connected to these virtual machines. That is how what would happen. So for example, if you have an F5 load balancer at your on-prem, so you can install the F5 load balancer and then have the backend as these virtual machines, and they can be the web servers, right? And you can have someone hitting your F5 on the public IP, and then it is basically doing a round robin in terms of a load balancing. Similarly, it can happen on the AWS as well. So AWS is giving you load balancer as a service. You can use that service and you can point the virtual machines running at your backend on VMware, and you can use them as well. Does that answer your question, buddy?
Yeah, thank you.
No problem.
Because I have one question for you.
Go
So,
for it.
like in the VMware, I think we have discussed a lot about comparison. But going forward, so what kind of explanation or what kind of level you are going to cover in this training? So actually, I already worked on VMware since like 6 to 7 years. I have like all the basics to intermediate level knowledge. So what I would like to know a little bit advanced on the VMware side, like say, architecture kind of layer, how we can do the capacity planning, like resource pools, or the the building designing. So that thing I would like to understand. So do you going to cover these things as well, or it will be like kind of intermediate level in this training?
Design, absolutely no.
Okay.
Okay, I will not be covering design over here. The
Mm-hmm.
intention is I am covering VCP level over here.
Okay, it will be like professional where you can understood and you can start working, right?
Install, configure, manage. This is what I will be talking about. I will be telling you that when you have to create a virtual machine, what are the things that you have to take care of, what is the best practice, what is NUMA, how you should be basically, working on that. I will be talking about it, but this will not be a dedicated design session. I will not be going in depth into design over here, that what are the things that you have to take care of. But from the best practices point of view, to keep your environment up and running, what are the things that you have to take care of? This is something that I will definitely be talking about. Okay, I will be keep giving you hints that keep in mind that if you have only one network card, things will go away. What would happen if you have one network card? Why do you need second network card? How the traffic will get rerouted? I will do all those demos. I will show you all the practical things. But again, keep in mind, this is not a design class. Here, I am basically
Design
introducing you what the technology is and how you can do that. Yeah.
I understood what you're saying. Design is just a word. Designing is not, I'm absolutely talking about the design perspective, but so the troubleshooting scenarios, will you also that cover like if we face some issue, how we can resolve them? What kind of scenarios you already have? You have like, I think 14 years experience in VMware, so how you've done the troubleshooting, what we should do in the scenarios. Do you also
Sure.
cover that part as well?
Yes. So this will be, again, I'll be very honest with you and I'll be very candid. I will not be talking about all the troubleshooting tools. Okay, not every troubleshooting tool I will be talking about, because VMware has a dedicated course on troubleshooting, which is for 5 days. They talk dedicatedly about, how to do troubleshooting, what every command means, what are the parameters, and blah, blah, blah. Here, I will be talking about that if you have to do troubleshooting, I'll tell you an overview. If you have a problem, how do you approach the problem? How do you narrow down the problem? This is what I'll be talking about. Okay. So I will give you a hint that how do you come to a conclusion that where the problem is? Okay, how do you narrow it down? But I will not be talking about the entire 5 days of a troubleshooting course like VMware does as in an official training. So that
Okay.
is not I will be doing.
And do we also get some practical, like say, labs or something where we can do our this building and all, or not? It will be only you will show us.
So I will show you in the class all the
Uh,
demos, how it will be, and this is getting recorded, so you will get access to the recording as well. Once
okay.
the class is over, you will get access to lab. Okay.
Okay.
So in our
Okay.
lab, we have 64 GB RAM, we have an SSD, we have a good i7 processor. So these things we are providing you in the lab. And the way I will be doing the practical, similarly, you can do on your lab as well, and you can get hands-on.
Okay. And one more question, because I have to like think whether I should go ahead or not with the class. So one thing, do you also cover that upgradation, like say vCenter upgradation, patching,
Yes.
and these things as well in this?
Yes, I will be talking about how to upgrade the environment, not necessarily about the patching, but yeah, I will be talking about that. How do you apply the patches? What a baseline is, how do you scan it? How do you upgrade from 7 to 8, from 8 to 8.0 update to what are the
Okay.
things? How do you roll back ESXi? What are the sequences? What are the things that you have to keep in mind? That is the last weekend I will be talking about all those things that how do you do that? So that is, yes, it is covered.
Okay, just was last question. Sorry to asking so many
No, that's
questions.
okay.
I think the first thing, like I think you should get one formal introduction from everyone. So everyone should tell you like what kind of expertise they have, what kind of knowledge they have, or the experience. So that will be, I think, good for the a team building or understanding with the other colleagues as well. So just a suggestion for you.
I completely agree that I should definitely do that. But the
Okay.
only point is, I might not remember all these things, okay? Because you are, 14, 15 of you, few of them have not joined. So trust me, it is very hard for me to remember, what you do professionally. I'll be honest with you, okay? Because I have a batch in the morning as well, and I have a batch right now with you guys as well. So in the morning, I've got 15, 20 folks, and in the evening, if I've got 15, 20 folks, trust me, as a trainer, I will not be able to remember this. Okay, I'm being
No,
very
it's
honest with you.
I think it's not only for you, but we also should understand. Like if you're in a class in a batch, so I must
Mm.
know the Rajnitha or Lamini or whatever. So that's not only for you, but it's a like formal introduction. So everyone should know each other. Not only like you should know, but we should also know the other team members. So that's only a how we should formal start and anything, any meeting or something. That's only just suggestion.
Absolutely.
If you would like to
Yeah,
go ahead,
that's okay.
fine.
That's okay.
Yeah,
That's okay. Yeah, we can definitely do that. But yeah, I wanted to be, very open about this that, I might not remember everyone from the background, what you are doing. So
yeah, fine, fine.
uh,
What I
that's the
think I
only
tell you.
thing.
No problem.
No, no,
Okay.
that's okay. Completely fair enough. So why don't you go ahead and, you start only, and we'll
Yeah,
ask others
sure.
to chip in.
So yes, that's I think good thing. So my name is Naveen Madan. I have around 10 years of experience in different technologies, but majorly I have experience in data center technologies like Windows, VMware, and Active Directory. So currently I'm working with a good MNC at Pune location. And right now, but my next perspective is I would like to go ahead with cloud technology, maybe Azure, or I would like to be like architecture level knowledge in the VMware. So that's what is my future plan. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Anyone else would like to go for? Don't be shy. Come on, guys. Anyone? A quick intro for a few seconds. That should be okay. Again, it's up to your wish. I cannot force anyone. So if you feel like.
So
Okay.
because I had been working
Mhm.
as a Postgres developer and admin for the last 9 years, and before that, I was working on Microsoft Business Intelligence for about 2 years. And prior to that, I have close to 18 years experience in total in IT industry, and I'd been working on different things. And for past 3 years, I'd been a system engineer alongside being a DBA. And I I wanted to learn something new, and hence chose this because one of my friends was already working on it, and I was talking to him, and I said, okay, let me do this. and I might want to change because I'm just by now being the TBA, I just needed that change.
Okay, good. Thank you for sharing. I think this
Yeah.
will be helpful for you.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else?
Yeah, so myself, Rakesh Gupta, I have 5.4 years of experience in IT domain, but last 4 years I working on as a system admin on uh, Active Directory and server infrastructure.
Mm.
So
Okay,
same, I want to switch in the VMware technology. I want to get the job in the VMware technology. So for that reason, I joined this session. Thank you.
cool. Thank you.
Yeah, myself Praveen. Recently, I have completed my education. Uh, I am a
Hmm.
fresher.
Okay, that's good to know. It'll be. I hope this will be informative for you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Lamen. I've got 4 years of experience in IT industry. So I currently work as a system admin. I have a background in Cisco technology. So I'm trying to switch because at the moment I'm working on servers and virtual VMwares as well. So I'm switching to get more knowledge in VMware because I'm working on, that's where my work is currently.
Okay, thank you for sharing.
Hi, myself Ranjita. So I don't want to tell much about my past, but last 2 years I've been like working on VMware since technology is ever evolving. So I want to like understand everything in depth, and this is like one-stop shop for VMware. Everything I can understand. So that is the intent of joining, and also please expect any kind of silly questions from my end, and please ignore that as well if it's like more problematic.
Let me be honest with you. There is nothing called as a silly question.
Yeah,
I'll tell
like
you that.
on
Yeah.
the variety of experience, like various
No,
experiences,
that's okay.
it may not be that comfortable. Like, I
No,
mean,
that's okay. That's okay. I always believe in one thing, and I tell this in every batch of mine. That is, there is nothing called as a bad student. There is always a horrible teacher, but there is never a bad student. So if I am not able to explain you, I think this is my fault. I don't know the technology well enough. That is why I could not explain you. If I knew, I would have been able to explain you. So there is absolutely, I believe in this term that there are always horrible teachers and there are never, bad students. The students are always good. It's the teacher's responsibility to make you understand. So yeah, don't worry on that part. Yeah, ask as many questions as you want. Thank you.
yeah. And I have one more question. Like as you said, you'll be concentrating more on VCP. So does that I mean extend to VCAP as well? Like does it give
Few
us an idea
few
like what
things.
VCAP is about?
Yeah.
Okay.
There would be few things, not everything will be covered. So VCAP is basically divided into two things. I mean, you have something called as a deploy,
Mm-hmm.
okay, and there is something called as a design, okay. In deploy, you will be basically asked to, do it's a hands-on like a exam. So if you go for a Kubernetes exam, it's like an hands-on exam wherein you have to do everything and have to show them. There is nothing MCQ over there, no multi-choice questions. So that is what deploy is. So in deploy, you would be asked to do a lot of things, 17, 18 questions. You have to do that. But this is all focusing on the doing things. And design is basically drag and drop, wherein you are designing the environment and trying to get the valid perfect design and how the things would work. So not everything I would be covering in VCAP. Few things I will be touching because VCAP is a different course altogether. Here, as you would have heard that people are getting introduced to the technology. So when folks are getting introduced to the technology, that is why VMware has a special course called VCP. This is basically about install, configure, manage. Okay. VCAP is when you know about the technology, when you have had a good experience, then you basically look into the VCAP kind of things. So no, I would not be covering VCAP. Few things, here and there I will be talking about, but the focus will be more on the VCP side.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah,
Hi,
hi.
this is Sarad from Hyderabad, and I do hold around 8 years of experience. I'm currently working as an analyst. So I want to seek more knowledge regarding VMware, and currently I do have certifications regarding M365.
Nice.
So
Good.
just want to know the beyond the level things in it. So that is it.
Sure. Great. Thank you.
Hi, myself Fayaz. I'm just completed my qualification education.
Okay. Okay. Great. No problem.
Hi, myself Kalyan Chakravarti. I'm from Bangalore. I'm having 3+ years of experience in VMware. I'm working in one of the MSc, and I want to know in detail about VMware stuff. But I didn't get any chance on to install the ESXi or upgradation part. So I want to learn more on VMware stuff. So that's why I've joined the course. Thank you, sir.
Sure. No problem. Thank you.
Yes, hello, good
Any?
afternoon. May I?
Go for
May
it.
I?
Go for it.
Yes, I don't know you as a trainer. All I can see is a trainer. So I was not feeling today, in the early part of today, I wasn't feeling with cold, but I feel a little bit better now. I take some painkillers. That's no problem. That is the reason I joined a little bit later as supposed
No
to be.
problem.
Yeah, I'm in the IT and aviation sector as well, both in the aviation world and in the IT sector, especially cybersecurity. I have done Cisco. I have done also Checkpoint. I don't know, firewall, I think. And I really want to have, most of the time comes back, especially Windows Server. It comes back most of the time, and companies also run their data and their resources on a server. And most of the things, that is where they live. And especially now, migration from Prime to the cloud. These are the two things. I don't know, and I haven't seen it, so I was not first part of this introduction by other students. And I would like to know more about what are you going to teach, and what before I say anything in advance. Thank you.
Okay, so I will be basically covering this URL, which is basically VMware install, configure, manage. So these are the topics that the VMware has basically officially confirmed that these are the things that you should know at a professional level to be able to manage VMware environment. So this is what we will be covering over here. So VMware vSphere, install, configure, manage. This is what we will be talking about and covering all the points in the course. Okay.
How long will it last? How long are you in your lesson plan? Are you expecting to finish it off? Is it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 3 months?
6 to 7 weeks.
6 to 7 weeks. All right, got it.
Yeah.
6 to 7 weeks. Okay. Another question. May I ask one more question?
Go for it.
Yeah. The other thing is usually I would like to, whatever knowledge I gain from you, I'd like to pass on, which means I have got also some students as well. So for me as a teacher, I really want to know more about it and learn more so I can easily and comfortably teach. That's the reason that is the reason I joined this, really. Do you also help with like job interviews or maybe things like that, CV buildings? Is it part of it, or you don't do that? It's just a quick.
So I understand your point. So there are a couple of things in the resume that you can mention. So after the end of the training, I'll give you a few resume points that you can add in your resume, wherein you could show them that, you can tweak your resume by telling them that you have experience on VMware. What are the things that you used to do as a day-to-day operations, and how do you manage it? So yeah, I mean, this is something that I will be talking about it. From the interview point of view, I do not believe in interview questions. I'll be very honest with you. I believe that if you understand how the technology works, then you will be able to understand any question, whichever, there is around. Okay.
Mhm.
So basically, if you look in the interviews, they would always try to check that how or what are the steps that you will be taking in a certain scenario. What are the things that you should be doing if a VM is
Mhm.
not getting powered on, if a VM is
Yeah.
slow, or if the ESXi is not responding. So these
Mhm.
are like open-ended questions. They do not have a single line answer over there. So you basically need to show the approach to the interviewer that what is that you will be doing, how you would be isolating the issues, what is that you will be looking into it, then accordingly you will be troubleshooting the issues, because there are hundreds and hundreds of errors that you can have. So you cannot learn everything and anything. You have to refer to Google, you have to refer to VMware KB articles to solve the problem. This is not a school that I have to learn up everything, mug up everything, and then I have to write it in my exam. So you have to refer to Google, you have to refer to blogs, but you should know what the approach is. You should know a logical conclusion that what should be my next step and what should I do. So this is what I would suggest you.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I was just asking you because of I was wondering really. In this part of world where I live now, there are three parts of the interview, especially those who work in the human resource or recruitment. Partly is the personal level. What kind of person are we going to, they will ask you questions. And the other, what you're talking about is the technical part, because they will hire somebody like you who will have a set of questions, and if he or she knows, then you can easily pass. Yeah. Uh, but on the personal level, then that is more tricky here, because a good question is, why do we have to hire you? Something like that. But anyway, we are living in two different geographical location. I'm just sharing my my
I understand.
experience here. And the people sometimes where they fail is not the technical part, it is the personal thing. Yeah, and there are some discriminations, of course, nowadays there are existing, but I don't believe it anyway. Whatever the case, I'm really glad and I'm looking forward to it. And thank you very much for sharing.
No problem. Thank you
All
for
right, I'll mute now.
sharing your points. Cool.
All right, thank you. I'll mute now.
Anyone else?
Because one more thing, like see, for example, kind of thing, like you are teaching like how to create a VM, for example. After installing of the ESXi server, you are creating the VMs. Like all people are asking about the troubleshooting kind of thing. For example, if I am asked the VM is not unable to power down for 5 minutes, what we need to check, for what kind of steps we need to troubleshoot, we need to check further for the basic troubleshooting, what we need to do. In that 5 minutes, we can tell me it will be cover a little bit kind of troubleshooting part now, so that I'm just asking.
Yes.
It will be a very good thing, right? So that's why it will be cover a little bit of troubleshooting kind of thing. So
Sure.
it will be better, right? So,
I would also request you, Kalyan, thank you for bringing up that point. I would also request you that while teaching, if I somehow skip anything, in case if I do not, touch base on something, do bring it up. Like you mentioned that while creating a VM, if it is not getting powered on, then what should I do? What are the things? Now, if you have such queries, I would encourage you to ask. Okay, ask these questions. That while we are going along, so that I'll keep answering them. Of course, these questions I will be covering in the troubleshooting section that I have in the end. But if we can take these questions along, that should be great as well. So if there's anything that you feel that you would like to know more on that topic, please go ahead and ask. This is what I would say. Like
and
you just
you will discuss regarding anything like interview point prospect to these kind of questions will be
yes
asked. It's very important. Like this, you will
yes
tell us, or you are telling us before, like we need to Google it and see, for example, ESX
no no
server
no
is
no
down. ESX
no no
server
no
is down. For example, a 2 years experience guy is there, like he cannot troubleshoot the issue.
no
So
no no
how
no
can we
so
approach that?
correct. So Kalyan, my point was about Googling up the issue is that you first narrow down what the issue is. So my point would be that troubleshooting is all about basically trying to narrow down the issue. Trust me, I've done troubleshooting for 11 years, okay, in a VMware environment. So, no matter, what the issue is, you have to always isolate. get to a certain point that this is where the issue looks like, and then basically start digging further. Okay. Troubleshoot is always hit and try. Okay. There is nothing called as a perfect solution that this will work. I mean, though theoretically it is mentioned in the documentation that this will work, but there is no guarantee whatever is written in the documentation will also work for your environment as well. There could be some underlying other problem as well, right? So I'll basically be talking about that how do you narrow down the issue, and once you narrow down the issue, then you would be in a better position to Google up and get to a solution.
Yes, sorry, because again to ask about this, like actually what we are doing in the job kind of thing, architects will be they will configure and they will leave it us, and we have to work upon the tickets. We whether it like for example CPU memory, we are logging into the server and checking the CPU memory and disk space. That's it. And there is further in the future we won't get much knowledge. Why? Because I'm asking about like what are the troubleshootings we have done, like this kind of questions if we are rise up means it will be better, no? So that's why just I asked. That's it.
I understand your point. I understand your point. So see, there are a couple of things when you're going in an interview, you have to make up a story as well. Okay, I'll be honest with you. You have to be a storyteller. So whenever you are trying to sell something or whenever you're trying to do something, so when I sell the solution to the customers, I have to tell them a story. Whenever you are giving an interview, it's all about a story. How good as a storyteller are you? That basically depends on everything. Okay. So yeah, I mean, there are a few things that you have to keep in mind. There are few, basic questions that you have to, comprehend in your mind before you go for the interview that, like if you give an AWS interview or any other interview, they would ask you a very horrible question. Tell me a time when you failed and what you did and what was your learning. Trust me, this question will ask everyone. I mean, you give your Google interview, you give your AWS interview, you give IBM interview.
Correct.
Everyone
Yes.
is asking that same question: when you failed, what you learned, what you did. So, I mean, now you cannot give different examples to everyone. No, I mean, you're not failing every day that you're giving a different example to everyone. And that example has to be a very professional one. It has to be, meeting their criteria, star format, and their, principles and blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, what do you do at that point of time? So, of course, you have to think about these questions. You have to be, prepared beforehand, what you will be telling, what you will be the narrative, all these things you have to do a little preparation as well. Of course, technical part on how do you troubleshoot, because in technically there is no end. A buddy just mentioned that, the company would ask you, why should I hire you? I mean, of course, you have to, understand these questions and, you have to be prepared beforehand. So all these things, you have to prepare beforehand that, tell me a scenario, what you did, how did you, go an extra mile for the customer, or what was the scenario. So basically they want to understand how good you are as a storyteller. So these things you have to do in the interview as well. So yeah.
Thanks.
Okay. Anyone else?
If everyone is done, so I have three quick questions. Shall I ask or wait?
Uh-huh. No, go for it.
Okay, so first question is, you would help us for the patching because VMware releasing so many patches. So how we can identify which one is good for the ESXi and vCenter? So that
I will
cover.
talk about it in the patching section, that which ones you should patch, which ones you should not patch, and all those other things. Yeah.
Okay, so, yes, so first question. And second question, if in case we will, in future we will work in industry, if in case we face any critical issue,
Hmm.
so for that time we need help, so we can put that critical issue, any error, anything in the WhatsApp group.
Hmm.
So you would be help us.
I'll be honest with you over here. I'm a working professional. I have my job Monday to Fridays. I do this on weekends. Okay.
I don't want instant answer, but if
Yeah, in a couple of days I will be able to answer it. I cannot, I will not take, I will not give you a false commitment that I would answer in 2 hours. I will answer in 1 hour. Absolutely no. Okay. I might take a couple of days to answer that question, depending on my availability. keep in mind, as a system admin, you would not know everything about the technology. That is why you have support. And that is why you have got vendor support, and that is why you log SRs and you get the vendor on the call and you troubleshoot with them. System admin's responsibility is to keep the lights on, making sure that the best practices are followed. But trust me, you cannot be as good as a technical support engineer who's sitting in at VMware and day in and day out troubleshooting those issues. That's a fact. That's a hard fact, and there is nothing wrong in that. I mean, of course, it's responsibility of a VMware technical support engineer to resolve the issue. I mean, you try your best how you can understand. If there's anything that you do not understand, log a ticket. I mean, there is no shame in logging or reaching out to VMware, asking for assistance. That is what their job is, and that is what you paid for in the contract as well. So you have the rights to do that. So, okay, if you're stuck on a P1, if you're stuck on severity 1, things are not moving, your production is down, instead of putting it in a WhatsApp, loop in VMware technical support.
Okay. Yeah. So that question is, as I can see, 3 years before when I can see the JD of any company. So for the VMware administrator, they have mentioned only the VMware requirement. But today I can see that they have mentioned Nutanix requirement as well. So the company is moving to the Nutanix technology as well. That's why they're asking the requirement of Nutanix.
Everyone has a different thought. Everyone has a different environment. Everyone has a different design. No two designs are the same. No two customers' environments are the same. Okay. I, as a customer, I'm looking for someone who knows Nutanix and VMware. Another guy would be looking for someone who knows about Linux and VMware. Someone else would be looking at networking and VMware. Someone would be looking at Wintel and VMware. So, I mean, in today's world, the more you know, the better for you. But you would not be able to meet 100% of the requirement. Keep in mind, if you meet 70 to 80% of the JD, I mean, that's a very good shot, for a candidate to be hired, because you always cannot expect everything 100% from a candidate would know everything. That's not realistically possible. Okay. So again, Nutanix, VMware, these are two different companies altogether. VMware is a huge brand. VMware is an upcoming brand. So there are, a lot of differences over there. So you can talk about Proxmox, you can talk about Hyper-V, you can talk about Red Hat OpenShift virtualization, you can talk about, KVM. So all these are hypervisors, available in the market. Would you be able to learn all of them? Absolutely no. That's not humanly possible that you would know anything and everything, in terms of the hypervisor world. If you ask me, that I've been, working on VMware for close to about 15 years now, do I know everything about VMware? Will I be able to troubleshoot all the scenarios in VMware? Or would I know every virtualization? Absolutely no. I mean, I would not be able to do that. And to even, think that I should be able to do all those things, that's not fair on my part. That is what I would say. I mean, you cannot learn everything. You cannot do everything. That is why, you have to be really very focused on what you are trying to do. The more you know, the better for you. I mean, that is what I would say. But you have to take step by step. If you try learning too many things at one time, things will not go your way. Okay. So if you're learning VMware now, pay attention over here. Once this is done, then you can focus on Nutanix, or then you can focus on Proxmox or any other one.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yeah, I've got one more question before we start, and it's about the VMware. When we are going to use it, are we going to get the 60-day trial that they give usually?
Yeah. So that is
60
comes
day.
by default.
Yeah, I think 60 days. I think as I have read today, 60 days trial. Okay, all right. Okay. Then that's it. That's my question. Thank you.
Okay.
And what is hypervisor, Vikas?
Yeah, let's proceed with the trading. I'll cover all these points.
Yeah, okay.
Anyone else, if you have any questions, we can take this or we can proceed.
Yes, the last question. Sorry.
Go for it.
Every day you make the lesson. Are we going to get the record of it? Is it possible, or are you planning to do it?
Yeah, you will get the
So at least
recordings.
when we get stuck somewhere, then we can easily
Refer
easily
to
go
these
back.
videos.
Yeah, we can go back to the videos and
you can
see it.
revise.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. All right, everyone, let's get started. So there are a lot of things that we need to cover. So whatever we spoke about, just go with it. Any questions, let me know. Okay. So I would like to now begin by talking about the basics, which is why you should be learning VMware. Okay. Or I should be talking about what are those challenges that VMware can resolve for you. Okay. Let me answer those questions. So when we did not have virtualizations, I mean, things used to work fine. Everything was there, and everything would work fine. But why do I need virtualization? Okay. Let me answer that question, and then let's take things forward. So the first thing is that let's take an example that we are in a year, for example, 2015. I mean, for few of you who might have already, attended the demo class, this might be a repeat for you. But yeah, that was a demo. This is an actual class. So let me quickly go over it, and then we'll get moving with all the other topics. Okay. So let's take an example. Let's say that we are in year 2005, okay, or maybe 2004. So at that point of time, virtualization was not very prevalent. It was out there in the market, but not everyone was using it. Okay. So at that point of time, people were generally using physical boxes. Now, when you talk about any environment would have, a lot of different test beds. They would have a development, they would have a QA, they would have a test, they would have a production. A few people will have pre-production, they call it by different names. Okay. Ultimately, they would have different environments depending on how uh, what is your background of your client and how much money they have, to be honest. Okay. Because to make different environments and to replicate the application, there is a lot of money that you have to pay: hardware, application licenses, folks, data center cost, and blah blah blah. There are so many things involved, so not everyone can afford it. Okay. Very few customers you will run across who basically manage a development, a QA, and a production kind of an environment. So let's say that, if you have a customer who basically has these environments, so what would happen is if you buy a physical box, okay, for your development, then you will have to also buy a physical box for QA, and you would have to also buy a physical box for the production. Okay. Now, when you are testing an application, basically you would want to keep the hardware as the same. So whatever the hardware configuration you have over here, you would like to keep the same configuration on all the three boxes, making sure that tomorrow when you do something on the development, you expect to see the same behavior on the production. You do not put, a lower hardware over here and a higher hardware over here, because if you do that, that's not a valid testing. Okay. So you have to put the same hardware on basically all the environments. Now, this is only one application that you have. Okay. For one application, you've got three different boxes. Now, think about it. You would have so many different applications. And in an application stack, you have a database server, a web server, and an application server. And generally, on a physical box, you only have one hardware. On that one hardware, you would have one operating system and you would have one application. You would never install multiple applications on one hardware. I mean, technically, you can do anything in life, but theoretically, you will not do that. Okay, theoretically, this is not the right thing to do, that you install too many things on one hardware. You would basically have one operating system and one application. So if you take this into consideration, that one hardware, one operating system, and one application, think about how many physical boxes you will have to buy, because you're not using virtualization. So if you are using a physical environment, for everything you need a physical box. When you need a physical box, the question is you have to buy that physical box. So what you will do is you will call up HP and you will tell HP that you want a physical box. HP will say, okay, you will tell the configurations, the shipping address, blah, 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 and they will basically send the box out to you, but they need money for that, right? who's going to pay, for that physical box? So it has to be, of course, from the company's credit card. It's not going to be you and me. Okay, so that's capex. That is capital expenditure. That is when you buy a box, you have to upfront pay for it. Okay, that's a capital expenditure. So the number of boxes that you buy, the more that you have to pay. Okay. The second challenge is when you buy the boxes, where are you going to keep them? Because the server is going to emit, hot air, and that the server has to be cooled. You need a proper electricity. The power cannot be fluctuating. You need a proper internet connectivity. You need a proper security so that nobody takes out the hard drive and goes away. Nobody takes out the power supplies and goes away. So you need a proper security, and all those things you have to basically look at. And that is where a data center comes in. So you have a data center, where you basically keep all your physical machines, and they are tied together so that you do not have to worry about someone else going to take away your physical box, and tomorrow morning when you come in, there would be nothing over there. So yeah, so when you rack and stack a server in the data center, you have to pay for it. You have to pay for the rack, the electricity, all those things you have to pay for it. So that is operational expense. You have bought the hardware, that was the first expense. Now you have to maintain the hardware, and for that, you are paying it again to keep it in the data center. Now, if you have a lot of physical boxes, you need a lot of folks to manage it, and that's additional overhead. So all these things you have to keep in mind. Okay. The next problem that you will run into when you are using a complete physical environment is about utilization. So for example, if you have a server, and on a server, if you have 100 GB of RAM, end of the day, this 100 GB of RAM will be used by the application. Okay. So no matter whatever the CPU and memory that you put over here, it is basically only for the application to consume these resources. Now, if your application for some reason is not consuming the resource because it is that time of the day wherein the application is not running, it only runs in the night, and during the morning it sleeps, or vice versa. So if your application is not using these resources on a physical machine, you cannot take these resources and give it to someone else. Because if you have a laptop with 32 GB of RAM, and if you're only using 16 GB of RAM or 20 GB of RAM, you cannot take that other remaining 12 GB of RAM and give it to someone else, and you cannot tell them that, here, use this RAM for 12 GB, and you give me later after some time, when I need it. I mean, that's not the way it is. With a physical box, you basically just rack and stack things. So the next point that you will be facing an issue is about the utilization. Okay, this is about when you have a hardware, and if you're not utilizing CPU and memory, what do? What are your options? Who is going to use it? So yeah, I mean, at that point of time, you are stuck because nobody else can use the utilization from a physical box. That's not done. Okay. The other problem that you will have is lifecycle management. That is, whenever you buy a box, it is good for only 5 years. The shelf life of a hardware is only for 5 years, and after 5 years, you have to throw it away and get a new one, because this will be end of orderability. And then, with time, it will go end of life. So end of life means that, I do not make those phones now. I do not make that hardware now. So if you go out in the market and if you say that, I want to buy iPhone 7, or if I want to buy an iPhone 5 or 6, whatever that version is, they would say we don't make those phones now. You have to buy whatever the latest one is, whatever the newer version is, you have to buy that phone only. Okay. So similarly is the case with hardware. After every 5 years, you have to throw away the hardware and get a new one, because the newer operating system will not be supported. The old hardware, you will not get any kind of a support or contract. Tomorrow, if the hardware fails, you're not going to get a spare hardware. So all those things, basically force the customer. They basically force you to throw away the box and get a new one. Okay. So this is basically called a lifecycle manager. Now in lifecycle manager, when you throw away the hardware, you have to pay for it. It's not like, you're going to get anything in return because you are giving such a big box. No, that's not how it is. You have to pay for it. You have to look for an IT disposal vendor, or an ISO certified vendor, who would basically come at your data center, pick up the parts, dispose it, give you an email stating that, these are the parts that have been disposed. And that email you can use in the IT audit so that, tomorrow you're not marked down on that part. So lifecycle manager is something that you will have to keep doing it. If you have got, for example, 5,000 or 6,000 physical boxes, so at least 2 or 3%, hardware would be, out of contract every year. So if you have got 5,000 boxes, so you are basically, throwing away, 50 boxes every year or 100 boxes every year. So that's too much, throwing away 100 physical boxes, getting new ones, installing and racking it, getting the connectivity done, reinstalling the operating system, restoring the application, establishing the connectivity, verifying that your application is working well. There's so many things involved. So it's not like, an easy step that, I'll throw away the hardware and get a new one. No, it's not that as simple as it looks like. There are so many things involved. And that becomes a challenge as well, that you have to manage and maintain the environment. Yeah. The other problem that you will have is regarding provisioning. That is, let's say if someone comes up to you and says that, I need 10 physical boxes, or I need a Windows machine right now. Okay. So you would say that I cannot give you a Windows machine right now because I do not have a spare hardware. I mean, to install Windows, I need a physical machine, where I would be installing it. If I have a Windows box, then only if I have a HP box or a Dell box, then on that box, I can install an operating system. If I do not have a box, where am I going to install it? So the provisioning cannot be done, in real time. So you would have to basically call up HP, pay for it. HP will take 2 or 3 weeks. They'll deliver the hardware. You then need to rack and stack it. You need to verify that do you have space in the data center? Do you have a port available on the networking switch? Do you have the cables available? You have to mark the cable, because if you look at the data center, every cable has to be tagged so that you know that where the cable is, starting from and where it is ending. So what is the use of the cable? Because if you don't do that, data center management will become an absolute challenge for you. That is why people do not want to manage their data centers, and that is why VMware customers are moving, running VMware on the cloud so that, they do not have to do this management of data center. Because trust me, it's a headache, when you have to manage a data center, putting all the cables, tagging them, marking them, making sure that everything is okay. When there is a failure, replacing the right component so that the others are not impacted. Now there's so much of, headache that you have to take in managing the data center. Okay. So that is why, all these things you have to look into. The other problem that you will run into is about downtime. Okay. The downtime is that, if you have a physical box, that physical box goes down, you will call up HP. You will tell HP that, hey, HP, I've got this box. Both the power supplies for some reason, are not working now because we had a power outage. The power fluctuated very quickly for 5 or 6 times. Now the power supplies have short and they are not working. And I would like you to replace the power supply. HP will say, okay, I can do that, but I cannot do it right now because the kind of contract you have that supports next business day. And coincidentally or hypothetically, let's say that, this is a Thursday, tomorrow is a public holiday, then there is a weekend, and then, the engineer will come on a Monday and will replace the part. So you are basically looking at 3 days of continuous downtime. There is nothing that you can do about it if your hardware is down, because that's the kind of contract that you went with. So these challenges you would also have with a physical environment, wherein if you do not have the proper hardware, then yes, you will have to, if you do not have the proper contract, you might be looking at downtime. Yeah. And the last thing would be about scalability. So for example, if you have a new project coming up, wherein you need 200 Windows servers, or you need 200 Linux servers. So basically we are looking at 200 physical boxes. Now, if I need 200 physical boxes, again, all these things apply. Who is going to pay for it? Do I have capacity in the data center to rack and stack? Then I have to do all that labeling, putting up the cables, setting up the connectivity, and that, all headache I would have to go through. Now, again, data center is a limited capacity. When you say cloud, Cloud does not mean it has unlimited resources. Again, there is this, there's a limited amount of resources. It's just another data center. Okay, so it has got limited resources. Same is available with a data center as well. So if you're managing your on-premises data center, if you're hosting your environment in a specific data center, if the space is available, then only the data center guy can accommodate your 200 new boxes. If they do not have space, how are they going to accommodate, your 200 physical boxes? So they would say, no, thank you, go away. And then you have to look for a new vendor, put 200 boxes over there, establish connectivity, set up an IPsec VPN so that those two different sites can talk to one another, look at the latency, and then you go into that loop again, that you're making sure that your application works well. So there are a lot of challenges, if you are running only a physical environment. Okay. So to resolve all these problems, we have something called as hypervisor. Okay. So with an hypervisor, you do not have to buy hardware every time when you have to deploy an operating system. You can quickly create a virtual machine and you can, deploy the Windows or the Linux operating system over there. Creating a Windows machine does not, create any overhead for you in terms of OpEx because it's not consuming space. It's not consuming anything additional in the data center. It's only a virtual machine logical object. Okay. If your physical box is low on the utilization, you can create warm virtual machines. If any virtual machine was consuming resources, but it is now not consuming those resources. So I'm running basically on one physical box, a lot of virtual machines. So if you don't need the utilization, that's fine. Another, virtual machine will basically get the CPU and the RAM. Okay. So it's not that only one virtual machine is running on the physical box, and that is, where the resources are. Okay, you can do and easily, move the resources to another virtual machines. You have to do very few lifecycle managements because you are basically now running virtual machines that can be migrated on the fly from one hardware to another hardware. So you do not have to worry about, replacing too many hardwares after 5 years. There will be very limited hardwares you will have to do that. And again, there would be no downtime. If you have to do that, everything will be basically online. When you have to provision a new Windows server as a virtual machine, I can do this in less than 2 minutes. I can have a new server on the IP address and everything, and in less than 2 minutes, I can give you a fully functional Windows server. You can RDP to it, and then you can use the machine as you feel like. Okay. There is negligible downtime. So if your physical box on which the virtual machines are running, if they go down, the vSphere functionalities will automatically fail over the VMs to another available box in your environment, and everything will come online. I'll do a demo for that. That's called HA, high availability. I'll do a demo after 2 or 3 weeks, and then you will understand that how it works. Okay. Talking about scalability. Scalability means that if you want 200 virtual machines, absolutely I can do it. Okay, if I have the resources on my physical environment, I can do that. If not, I would basically need 3 or 4 physical boxes, and on that, I would be able to deploy 200, virtual machines. So it basically depends on, how quickly you will be able to scale. But yes, with virtualization, you will have a lot of flexibility in scaling out. Okay. Any questions, anyone, if you have so far, whatever we spoke about? Okay. So now comes in the term hypervisor. Yeah. So hypervisor can be an operating system. It can be an application. And basically, the responsibility of a hypervisor is that on one physical box, you will be able to create multiple virtual machines. This is what the hypervisor as a functionality is doing for you. Again, hypervisor can be an operating system. It can be an application. End of the day, the intention of the hypervisor is that on one physical box, you are able to spin up multiple virtual machines. This is what the hypervisor is basically going to do for you. Okay. Now, let me give you an example. So let's take an example that you bought a laptop. Okay. You have this laptop and it has a hard drive. And let's take an example that the hard drive that you have on this laptop is absolutely blank. There is no Windows running over here. There's nothing absolutely. Okay, this is a raw hard drive laptop that you have. Now, if you want to install a Windows 10 on it, what will you do? You will get the Windows 10 ISO. You will make the USB bootable. You will basically burn the ISO on a USB and you would make that USB bootable. Now you will connect this USB to the laptop and you will boot the laptop off the USB, and then you will install the Windows 10 operating system, which is there on the USB directly on the hard drive. This is what you are going to do. Okay. So Windows 10 is a complete operating system that goes directly on the hard drive. There is no middleman between the hard drive and the Windows 10 to make sure that the installation goes okay. You do not have to download any third-party bootloader. There is no additional files needed, or there is no boot from floppy or boot from CD that you have to do to install Windows 10. Windows 10 is a self-sufficient operating system. It has everything. It only needs a hard drive, and then the installation will begin. Okay. So just like Windows 10, it gets installed directly on the hardware, on the hard drive. Similarly, we have a type 1 hypervisor. So a type 1 hypervisor is a complete operating system. Just like Windows 10, this is a complete operating system. And when you will buy an HP hardware or a Dell hardware or an IBM Fujitsu, whatever the hardware you're going to buy, on that hardware, you will have a hard drive. Okay. Now, what I'll be doing is I will be installing my type 1 hypervisor directly on the hard drive. Just like the way I was installing Windows 10 directly on my hard drive, similarly, I will be installing type 1 hypervisor directly on the hard drive. This is how the type 1 hypervisor will be installed. This is an ISO, just like the Windows 10, and you install it directly. Okay. Once the hard drive has the type 1 hypervisor, then you will be able to go ahead and create multiple virtual machines over here. Okay. This is how it works. Now, let's take another example. I can have a physical machine, and here I might be running Windows 10. Okay. So the hard drive has Windows 10, for example, as an operating system. Okay. Now, on this Windows 10 machine, let's say I want to watch a movie. So what I will do, I will download VLC player. Okay. And then in the VLC player, I can watch a movie. This is what I can do. Okay. Now, what is VLC? VLC is an exe file. It is an application. To install exe file, you need an operating system, right? Exe file cannot install on the hard drive directly. I mean, this is something that cannot happen. It needs a platform like an operating system on which the installation can happen, okay? Because this is an exe file. Similarly, when I talk about a type 2 hypervisor, a type 2 hypervisor is an exe file, okay? Now, to execute this exe file, you need a base operating system. So what will you do? You will have an HP box or any other company's box. On this HP box, you will have a hard drive. Now, on this hard drive, what you are doing is you are installing Windows 10 or a Windows 2019 or a Linux, some operating system that you're installing. Now, once you have an operating system, now you will go ahead and you will install the exe file, the type 2 hypervisor, and then you will be creating multiple virtual machines. This is what you will be doing. This is basically called a type 2 hypervisor. Okay. If you look at from the architectural point of view, so you have a physical
Can you
machine.
explain one more time? Type 2
Sure.
hypervisor.
Sure. So in a type 2 hypervisor, let's say you have a desktop at home. Okay. And let's say on this desktop, you have a hard drive. Okay. So now on this hard drive, on this desktop, what you do, you install Windows 10, for example. Okay. Once the Windows 10 as an operating system is installed on your desktop, now what you will do, you will install type 2 hypervisor, which is an exe file, for example, VMware Workstation. Okay. So this is how VMware Workstation will look like. So you see this file over here. Okay. This is an exe file from VMware Workstation. Okay. So this is an executable. Okay. This is an application. So if you see over here. Okay. If I hide file name extension, so you see over here, this is an exe file. So now what I'm doing is I'm executing this exe file. This is an application. So I'm installing VMware Workstation. When my VMware Workstation is installed, then I will be going ahead and creating multiple virtual machines. So what I'm doing is I am running these virtual machines on the hardware, on the physical hardware. However, I am going through via VMware Workstation. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay.
Now,
Vikas, sorry, but the Hyper-V is also type 2 hypervisor?
I mean, this is a debatable point. Some people say it's a type 1, some people say it's a type 2. Some people say that, after installing Hyper-V, operating system does not load up, only Hyper-V loads up. I do not have exact answer for it because I've never worked on Hyper-V. You can basically,
Yeah.
check with, Google,
It's
I think.
debatable. I think that's why I asked you. I have the same kind of confusion. So yeah, I think it's everyone on the same page on that. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
No problem. So if I talk about from the architectural point of view, okay, so you have a physical machine. On the physical machine, let's take an example. I've got 100 GB RAM over here. Okay, I've got CPU, memory, hard drive, and all that. Now, what I would be doing is on this physical machine, I will be installing ESXi. What is ESXi? ESXi is a type 1 hypervisor. It is a complete operating system which is given by VMware. Okay, so just like the way you install Windows 10 directly on the hard drive, similarly, I will be installing ESXi directly on the hard drive over here. Okay. Once the installation is done, then on the ESXi, I will be creating multiple virtual machines. Every virtual machine has its own operating system and an own application. Okay. This is what I will be doing over here, and this is how the architecture will look like. Okay. This is again for type 1. Any questions anyone has over here, let me know. Now, similarly, if you have a physical machine and you have 100 GB RAM over here, now what you will do is on this physical machine, you are basically installing a Windows 10 operating system or a Windows 2019 operating system or a Linux operating system. Okay. Once that is done, now what you do is you install the type 2 hypervisor, which is my exe file and which is basically my VMware workstation. Okay. I install VMware workstation over here. Now, once the installation is done, then I will go ahead and create virtual machines over here. This is what I will be doing. Okay. I have virtual machines over here. They have their own operating system. They have their own application. And this is what I will be doing over here. Okay. This is basically a type 2 hypervisor. Now, a type 1 hypervisor is always used in enterprises. Okay. If you're using in production, it is always a type 1 hypervisor. If anything, at an individual level that you have to do, any training, any personal learning that you have to do, then you can basically go with a type 2 hypervisor. Okay. So VMware Workstation is for Windows and for Linux. And if you have a Mac operating system, there is something called as Fusion. You can download Fusion on your Mac and you can create virtual machines. Now, Fusion and VMware Workstation, they are basically available for free. You can download them from VMware for personal use. Broadcom has recently made this change. Earlier, you had to put in a license, but the new set of file will basically ask you that whether you are doing the installation for a personal or for a commercial use. If you're doing it for a commercial use, then you have to buy the license. For a personal use, you can download and use it for free. Yeah. Any questions, anyone, on this point, whatever you see on the screen?
In
Okay.
type 2, what is the difference between workstation and player?
I don't know. I think player is end of life now. It's no longer there. So I think you might not be getting it. Just use VMware Workstation. It is far more advanced. It has a lot of functionality, so use that. Player is basically old now.
Okay, and we will not get option of like HA and that DRS for the practice.
Yeah, we will do it. So VMware Workstation is a type 2 hypervisor. You need to build your lab in that hypervisor, and then you will be able to use all those functionalities. I will be doing the same in the lab. So how to create the lab, how the installation has to happen, how the connectivity will be done. All these things I will talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Okay, so the next thing that we need to talk about are basically two terms over here. Okay, I need to talk about two terms, what they are and how do they work. Let me answer those questions now. So basically the two terms that I'm referring to, the first one is basically called sharing of resources. Now, what do you mean by sharing of resources? So for example, like I told you earlier, when you have one physical box, and on that one physical box, let's say that you've got 100 GB RAM. Okay. Now, theoretically, like I mentioned, you would have only one operating system and you would have one application over here. Okay. Now, technically, you can install many operating systems and many applications. Okay, but you would never do that. I mean, there's something called as a best practice. So you would not do that. Okay, in an environment. So when you have got 100 GB RAM in an operating system, end of the day, this 100 GB RAM is supposed to be used by the application. Operating system will also require RAM, but that percentage is very low. Okay, it would need very low amount of RAM to maintain and to run the operating system, but the majority of the RAM has to be used by the application. Now, what if the application is not consuming RAM? Okay, if the application only has a requirement of about like 60 GB, okay, and 40 GB is ideal, is not getting used, it's spare, nobody is using it. So what do you do with that 40 GB RAM? Okay, you cannot install another application over here and you would say, let the other application run, take 40 GB. No, you're not going to do that in production. Okay, so to get rid of this problem, we have virtualization. So what virtualization will do for me is, let's say I've got a physical machine, okay, and it has 100 GB RAM. Okay, now what I will do is, on this physical machine, I will install ESXi. Okay, now we know that ESXi is my type 1 hypervisor. It is a complete operating system. Now, who controls the RAM? This 100 GB RAM is basically now controlled by ESXi. Okay, ESXi is the boss for the 100 GB RAM. Now, what I will do is I will basically create virtual machines over here. So, for example, I'll create VM01 and I will give 25 GB RAM over here. Okay. Similarly, I'll create VM02, VM03, VM04. Okay, and they all have 25 GB RAM. Now this is the allocated RAM. Now what do you mean by allocated RAM? When you open the operating system and when you look at the memory, you basically see over here 100 GB. Okay, what do you mean by 100 GB? That this Windows operating system can use RAM up to 100 GB. Okay, after 100 GB, it will say that your RAM utilization is at 100%, and automatically you cannot go to 101, and automatically you cannot go to 102. That's not possible, because what you have in an operating system is this, which is the allocated RAM. Similarly, over here, every virtual machine has been given 25 GB of RAM. Now, 25 GB of RAM is basically the allocated RAM. They cannot go beyond 25 GB of RAM. That's not possible. Okay. But the point is that, for example, if here this operating system is only using, a hypothetical scenario, is only using 10 GB, here it is using 12 GB, here it is using 13 GB, and here it is using only 8 GB. Okay, so let's say that I am only utilizing 40 GB RAM over here. Out of 100 GB, I'm only utilizing 40. Okay, what I can do is I can create more virtual machines. I can create a VM05, I can create a VM06. I can give them, 15 GB or 25 GB RAM, and then I can power on the machines. End of the day, every virtual machine is basically reaching out to ESXi and asking for RAM. Nobody can go to the hardware directly and ask for the RAM. That is not possible. Okay. So when a virtual machine has to ask for RAM, a virtual machine is like a process which is running on the ESXi. Okay. And the ESXi is the one which is basically allocating RAM to everyone. So if you don't need RAM, that's fine. ESXi will say, I'm going to give it to someone else. This concept is called sharing of resources. Okay. You don't need RAM, you don't need CPU, that's fine. I'll give it to another virtual machine that is in need. Whenever you need it, you let me know, I will give you RAM. This is what is sharing of resources is. Hey Sharath, go for it. You don't have to raise your hand, buddy. Just simply unmute yourself and ask the question. Go for it.
Yeah, thank you. No, sorry, Vivek. So being into professional stuff, right, where we need to follow some ethics and all. So that was a thing. Yeah,
Cool.
so,
Thank
so
you. Go for it.
as you said, right, for each and every host that it would be taking around 25 GB. That would be the RAM limit onto the
That
highest.
is the correct. That is the allocated memory. Every operating system
Yeah.
will see that.
So how many hosts can we deploy? And what would be the storage limit for one ESXi if in case we considered it in that way?
Okay, give me 10 minutes and I'll answer your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So when we talk about sharing of resources, what we are saying is if you don't need memory, I'll give it to someone else. Okay. Now, let's take another example over here. Let's take an example that you have a physical machine. It has 100 GB of RAM. And on that physical machine of 100 GB, you installed the ESXi. Okay. Now, again, we created few virtual machines over here. Okay. Every virtual machine has got 25 GB RAM. Everyone has their own operating system and own application. And now let's take a hypothetical scenario. Everyone is consuming entire 25 GB of RAM. Okay. So I have 100 GB of RAM, but what is my utilization? Full 100 GB. I mean, every virtual machine is utilizing 100 GB of RAM. Now, if I create another virtual machine, VM05, if I give 25 GB of RAM and if I power it on, what would happen? Technically, I can power on the VM, but where this virtual machine is going to get the RAM? Because ESXi has 100 GB of RAM and it has already provisioned it. No, it has already allocated it. So if you power on the VM, it will basically come back to the ESXi and it will say, I need RAM. ESXi will say, I don't have RAM. This virtual machine will say, I don't care, I need RAM. I was powered on and I need RAM. Now what would happen is everyone will basically start fighting for RAM. The ESXi will basically try to squeeze some RAM from here, try to squeeze some RAM from here, and basically will try to give this virtual machine, wherein all of them will run into a performance issue. Okay, this is what would happen. So how many virtual machines should you be creating? So let's take an example. You have a monster server. When I say a monster server, I am basically saying that on this ESXi, you have got 3000 GB of RAM. Okay. In one of my batches, a guy actually, shared his screen and he, showed me that on a Cisco UCS hardware, he had 3000 GB of RAM. I was under the impression that, the maximum RAM that I have seen on a hardware is about 2300 GB RAM. I had never seen 3000 GB of RAM on a physical hardware, and that was for the first time that I've seen that. So take a hypothetical example that you get a monster server. Okay, you get a server which is absolutely, has crazy hardware. Okay, so it has got 3000 GB of RAM. It has got 200, VC, physical cores and all that. Okay. Now on this hardware, what you do is you basically install ESXi. Okay. And now a question comes up: how many virtual machines I can create? Okay. Now there is a one-line answer to this question, and the answer is the kind of workloads that you are running. It will basically depend on the kind of workloads that you are running. What does that mean? That means if I create a virtual machine, VM01, and if I'm running a SAP application over here, the SAP needs 1500 GB of RAM. Okay. I'll create another VM over here, VM02. Again, I'm running SAP over here and it needs 1500 GB of RAM. I am done. That's it. I cannot create a third virtual machine. Now, technically, if you want to, you can create a third virtual machine, but if you know that if you will create a third virtual machine, you do not have RAM, right? Let's take a hypothetical scenario that, these virtual machines are utilizing good amount of RAM. You do not have RAM available on your physical box. Now, from where are you going to create a third virtual machine? You will not, right? So on this ESXi, you're only running 2 virtual machines, but you are running an ERP system over here that needs RAM. So that's okay. Okay. Now, let me change this scenario. Now I am not running an ERP. Let's say I am running a Windows 10 operating system. So let's say I am creating a virtual machine wherein I will be installing Windows 10 and I will be giving only 10 GB RAM. Now how many virtual machines I can create? Theoretically, 300 virtual machines you can create now on one physical box. So it depends what the workload you will be running on the ESXi. Okay. The best parameter to judge are 2 things. Okay. Again, this is an interview question. You can take this way. Always keep in mind that you are not supposed to use above 80%. Okay. So on any physical box, you will have CPU, memory, network, and hard drive. These are the basic primary 4 resources that make up your server or they break up your server. Okay. All these 4 resources do not go beyond 80%. Okay. Keep in mind, if you as a system admin keep everything below 80%, trust me, you will be the happiest system admin in the world. You will have absolutely, best sleep in the world and you would have no concerns. The day you start breaching this number, the day you start going to 90, 95%, then you would have sleepless nights. Okay. So VMware's recommendation is use only 80% of the resources of the hardware. That's it. Don't go beyond that. All your applications and everything would work well. Keep 20% for the buffer. This is what VMware says. Does that answer your question? Sure.
Yeah, Vivek, I
Uh,
get that.
Resources mean CPU, memory, network, and hardware only, right?
Correct. This is what in terms of resources mean. So these are the 4 things that will basically decide whether your machine is slow, whether your machine is fast, how is your application behaving and all that. So these are the 4 parameters that will basically judge.
And earlier you said like if we create 300 VMs on 3000 GB RAM, is there an impact on ESXi?
No. Why would it have an impact? Absolutely no. ESXi is a very robust, very reliable hypervisor. Trust me, I am talking about 2012. Okay. In 2012, I used to work for a music company. Okay. That music company had ESXi's which were powered on for 960 days. For 960 days, nobody did any patching, anything. Nothing was done on those hardwares, and they were running absolutely flawless. You had absolutely no concerns. So trust me, so ESXi as a hypervisor is truly resilient. It truly works fantastic. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Anyone else? Yeah.
here I want to put on one thing. So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, if in case, as you have said, right, that one ESXi would be having around 100 GB RAM thing and so if in case, for suppose there we didn't use around 80% below the usage for the physical device has been into 80%.
Mm-hmm.
And as if in case come to the scenario for the patching thing and all right. So where that would be which you would be using the extended available free space as well. So at that
No,
particular
no, no.
moment,
So what would happen is you will never have one ESXi in your environment. You will have multiple ESXi's in your environment. Okay. And you would have virtual machines running on all the ESXi's. Okay.
yeah,
Now you need to patch ESXi1. You need to do some activity on ESXi1. What you will do, you will take these virtual machines and migrate on another ESXi. So this ESXi is completely empty. This is blank now. Now you put the ESXi in the maintenance mode, you do the activity. Once the activity is done, you bring it back up and then you remove it from the maintenance mode and you migrate the virtual machines back to the ESXi. So end of the day, keep in mind, your ESXi has zero importance in the environment. If your ESXi goes down, trust me, Sharath, nobody will come to you and ask you that why the ESXi is down. Because nobody bothers about ESXi. Everyone bothers about the virtual machine. Why? Because there is an application running over there. Okay. So till the time your virtual machine and the application running in it, they are online, nobody cares about your ESXi. Okay. Infrastructure job is a thankless job. Nobody cares about, the infrastructure. End of the day, everyone pays attention to the application. The UPI, the Beam, all these applications have to work. What it takes to keep these applications up, nobody cares about it. That's the way it is.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Because I have one question actually.
Mhm.
So as you told, like in case we have a lack of RAM, we cannot, build a new machine, obviously, and it will not allow you. But in the
No.
scenario,
Let me stop you. It
yeah,
will allow you. Technically, you can create a virtual machine, but theoretically, you will not do that because
yeah,
that's
yeah,
morally wrong, right? So, but
yeah, yeah,
technically, you can do that. I want to just correct you over there.
yes. But in case, let's say we already have the machines, because that time ESXi have RAM, it allocates, and we have, let's say, 4 machines with
Hmm.
25 GB RAM each, and we have 100 GB full space utilized.
Hmm.
Now, if we, like, if for example the resources get high, in every VM need more resources, okay,
Hmm.
but we already have 1 or 2 extra machines in our ESXi. So in
Hmm.
that case is how ESXi will decide which machine should be have how much RAM, because there is already over commitment. Let's say we have 1 or 2 extra VMs, because ESXi
Right.
can do that
So
resource
there are a
allocation.
couple of things to achieve this part. I get your
Mhm.
point. So there are a
Mhm.
couple of ways to achieve this. There's something called as shares. Okay.
Okay.
Shares is basically a priority. So you tell the ESXi that this pink virtual machine is important for me, and then
Mhm.
you will say that these green virtual machines are not important for me. So you give high priority to the pink machine. So when you run into contention, that is when your memory is not available,
Mhm.
first priority will be given to the pink machine, but because this is important for you. Others will not be given RAM. So you can manually make changes to this way. Okay. But nobody does it. Trust me. Never ever
Yeah,
do
yeah.
this, what I'm telling you.
So,
Okay.
my question is there any default configuration? The ESXi is it, let's say, first come first
No.
serve based or something like this? How it will
Yeah.
decide in that case?
So in that scenario, what would happen is every virtual machine is equal for the ESXi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So ESXi will basically judge on its own, on its internal algorithm, that how it has to distribute the RAM. Okay. Now, when we proceed in the course, I will tell you a scenario. When the RAM utilization goes high,
Mm-hmm.
ESXi will ask for the RAM back. ESXi is basically right now giving the RAM to all the virtual machines. But
Mm-hmm.
when the utilization keeps going high, there will be a time when ESXi will say that I am not giving RAM to anyone and now I need RAM back. This is what ESXi will also do. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
the scenario that you are telling is basically a hypothetical scenario. Okay. In production, you would never see this. Like the one that I'm explaining you right now, where ESXi will ask for the RAM back. I would explain you how it works and I would even show it to you.
Okay.
But you would never see this in production. Trust me. Okay.
Yeah, I like
So
it's not daily basis. You are right. Like it's
not
once
on,
in
not
a
in
while,
a,
maybe.
no. Not even once a year you would see that. Trust me on this. You would not even see in once, in a year. If you have a very limited hardware, okay, then if you have a very old hardware, and if you are not managing the hardware or your VMware environment in a proper way, then you will see these scenarios. If you are basically following VMware's recommendation, then whatever that we are talking about, you will never see in your life as a VMware admin. Trust me on this. Okay. When we will reach this point, I will talk about that how ESXi will basically request the RAM for, how will it,
Okay.
request for the RAM again. But for now, my suggestion would be keep it at 80%. Do not go beyond 80%. If you go beyond 80% as well, there are ways that in which VMware will automatically manage all these things. How will it do that? When we reach over there, I'll be talking more about it.
Okay. Fine. Thank you.
All right, moving on. So,
One more thing.
mhm,
Um, so when we install any OS or like Windows OS on a laptop or somewhere, some amount of memory is consumed by the hardware, like for the installation part. So
mhm.
doesn't happen here when we install a hypervisor on any
It's
host?
negligible. It's
Okay.
negligible. Okay.
Okay.
So consider this, that every ESXi in 2024 that you will be creating at a minimum, okay, at a minimum, it will have 1 terabyte of RAM. Nothing below
Yeah.
1 terabyte you will see. Gone are the days you will have 256 GB of RAM. This is something I used to see in 2012. That an ESXi used to have 256 GB of RAM. With 2017, I started seeing at least 768 GB of RAM or 512 GB of RAM. In 2024, trust me, every ESXi that you will create, it will have a minimum of 1 terabyte, nothing short of that, if you buy any new hardware. Okay. In 1 terabyte, the kind of memory which ESXi takes is close to about 6 to 7 GB. That's it. It's
Okay.
negligible. Okay. You would not even get to see about this. So it's very low amount of RAM that it requires for itself. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
And physically, how much RAM we have to install?
So
Maximum.
see, every operating system has a minimum and a maximum requirement. In ESXi, you will never install 40 GB RAM, on the hardware. Okay. Though VMware recommendation will say that, even if you install 16 GB of RAM or 22 GB of RAM, your ESXi would work. But would you install 22 GB RAM on an ESXi? When you are having a hardware which is of thousands of dollars, on that thousands of dollars, would you have only 22 GB of RAM? So I would say, Praveen, that whenever you buy a hardware, you would have at least 1 terabyte of RAM on that, nothing close to that. So do not worry about the minimums of ESXi. So when you have to know about the minimums and maximums, there is a URL. You can go to, max.vmware.com. Just type VMware maximums on Google. You will get the first link. There you can check out, what the minimums and the maximums is. There you will basically see the maximums, not the minimums. But trust me, nobody will ask you in an interview what the minimum amount of RAM needed on an ESXi. Trust me, it does not make sense. If it is 22 GB or if it's 30 GB, what difference does it make? I mean, are you going to install 30 GB on an ESXi? No, you're not going to do that, no? So these questions do not, I don't think so that anyone would ask you in an interview.
Yeah, okay. That's
Okay, so moving on. If I go back to my diagram that I had, so this is my physical machine. I've got 100 GB RAM over here. Now, what have I done? On this 100 GB, I installed ESXi. Okay. Now, on this ESXi, I created 4 virtual machines. Okay. And I gave them 25 GB RAM each. I saw that the utilization was not great. So I created 2 more virtual machines and I gave them 25 GB RAM each. Okay. So this 100 GB RAM that you see over here, this is basically called physical RAM. This is the actual RAM that you have on the hardware. Now, when you say the term virtual machine, okay, the word itself says virtual machine. There is nothing physical over here. Now, in the virtual machine, when you have CPU, when you have RAM, when you have network card, when you have hard drive on this virtual machine, everything is virtual. Virtual CPU, virtual RAM, virtual network, virtual hard drive, virtual SCSI controllers. Everything is virtual over here because this is a virtual machine. No, there's nothing physical over here. The point that I'm trying to say over here is, if you have given 25 GB RAM to every virtual machine and you have got 6 virtual machines over here, basically you have allocated 150 GB RAM. Though you have 100 GB of RAM, but you have allocated 150 GB of RAM. How can you do that? Because the utilization was not high. though you gave 25 GB of RAM to an operating system on a virtual machine, but it is only using 18, 17, or 15 GB RAM. It is not consuming entire, 25 GB. So you had a flexibility of, utilizing your resources, and you created 2 more virtual machines, and you did over commitment. Okay. You did over commitment over here. Okay. So over commitment is a very normal phenomenon to happen. Every company, every environment has overcommitment. Okay. I have worked for pharmaceutical clients. I have even worked for, clients that every quarter make billions of euros as revenue. Okay. So not at an annual, not annually, but every quarter they are making billions of euros as revenue. Okay. And in those VMware environments also, overcommitment is there. So overcommitment is a very natural thing to happen. Why? Because the virtual machines that you are creating, they are not consuming entire amount of RAM. Okay. If you have an operating system, and for example, if you gave 100 GB RAM to an operating system, you cannot use entire 100 GB, because if you use entire 100 GB RAM over here, your application will freeze. No, your application will not respond. Your operating system will basically start acting up. So you will basically keep a buffer, and you would say that, this operating system should use only 80 GB RAM or 85 GB RAM. Rest I'll keep some buffer. I don't want to threshold at 100 GB, because if I do that, I would have an impact on the application side. So that is true for everything, not for VMware. It's even true for the operating system. Like you buy a car, and that car says, for example, folks who are not in India, there is a car in India that's called Maruti. Okay, that's Maruti Suzuki. I mean, there's a Suzuki brand, and they make cars, and they make very compact, city small cars. Now, the speedometer of that, Suzuki car would show 200 kilometers. But can you drive that car on 200 kilometers? I mean, if you start driving the car at 200 kilometers, that small Suzuki car, the car will basically start shaking. Though it says that you can go to 200, but would you go to 200? You would not, right? Similarly is the case with the operating system. Though if you have given 100 GB RAM over here, that does not mean that you will use the entire 100 GB of RAM. You of course have to give some buffer over here. So you will basically keep it at 80 GB or something sort. Okay. So this is what overcommitment is. And this is why you are able to do overcommitment in VMware environments. And this is perfectly normal. There is nothing unusual or there's nothing bad in overcommitting. Okay. It happens all the time. Any questions anyone has? Okay. Moving on. Now let me talk about the history of ESXi. Let me talk about that, how ESXi as an operating system has developed, what used to happen in the past, what happens now. So let me answer those questions now. Okay. So basically, when VMware as a company, when they wanted to found VMware as a company, when they wanted to, make the company, they were basically looking at the operating system. Now, the 5 founders, if you Google up, they were like 5 guys from the Stanford University. They basically started to, found VMware. So when they did that, they were basically in search of an operating system, because at that point of time, they did not have the, they did not have the skills, or they were, something, that they could not create an operating system. So they wanted an operating system on which they could test out the functionality. Now, they reached out to Red Hat. Okay. And they told Red Hat that, we need your operating system. And in Red Hat, in the operating system, they basically decided to merge hypervisor capabilities. So they took Red Hat and they decided to integrate hypervisor capabilities. And this was called ESX. Okay. So ESX was Red Hat plus hypervisor. What does ESX stands for? Elastic Sky X. This is what it means. Why did they name it? What was the intention behind it? God knows about it. I don't know, but this is what ESX basically means. Okay. Now, they created the hypervisor, ESX, and it used to work fine. But there were few challenges with ESX. Okay, let me highlight the challenges they had. The biggest challenge they had was that they had to pay royalty to Red Hat. Any deployment that they would do for ESX, they were paying money to Red Hat. Okay, that was the biggest challenge. The other challenge was that any patch that Red Hat rolled out, you have to patch ESX as well. That was something that you had to do. Okay. You had too many unwanted services, which were running on the ESX. So it was basically very open to attacks and all that because you had too many unwanted services that were running over here. Okay. And there was a lot of booting time. So when you powered on an ESX, it would take a lot of time to basically boot up. Okay, because you had to load the Red Hat operating system, then followed by the hypervisor, and then it would come up. So there were challenges with ESX, and the biggest challenge of all of them was the amount of money that they had to pay to the Red Hat. What was the solution? So they basically downloaded Linux as a free operating system, and then they merged hypervisor capabilities over here. And now this was called ESXi. Okay. So what they did was they basically said, Red Hat, we don't need you. We are done with you. And we are basically now going to use the free and the available Linux version, which is available for everyone. And they started calling it as ESXi. I means integrated, embedded, whatever you want to call it. So this is what ESXi is. So with ESXi, they are not paying money to Red Hat. Okay. They are not dependent on Red Hat. If there's any patch that Red Hat rolls out, they do not have to do that. They control the services, which ones will basically be available during boot and which ones will be not. And the booting time has significantly come down. Now the ESXi as a hypervisor can boot up very quickly. Okay. The latest version of ESXi as a core operating system is less than 280 MB. Okay. How big is the operating system? So the ESXi as an operating system is less than 280 MB in 2024, the latest operating system I'm talking about. Okay, so ESXi is a very small hypervisor, but yet very powerful. Okay, so when they had to release ESX, they had the first version of 1.0, then came 2.0, then came 3.0, 3.5, 4.0, and 4.1. After 4.1, ESX was history. Okay, no other versions of ESX were launched. Okay, and with ESXi, they rolled out 4.0, 4.1, 5.0, 5.1, 5.5, 6.0, 6.5, 6.7, 7.0, and the latest 8.0. These are the versions that you have in the ESXi. Okay. So this is how the journey has been for ESX and ESXi. Okay, nobody's going to ask you now because these were the kind of questions that I used to ask, or you were asked in 2014, because in 2014 it was very common that in the environments you had ESX and you also had ESXi. So people would basically ask you at that point of time that what is the difference? Why should I be using ESXi? What is the technical differences over there? People would ask you, but not now. That's all history now. Okay. Now, let me talk about from the licensing point of view that how the licensing works. Okay, let me answer that question.
I have a question.
Go for
So
it.
which flavor of Linux we are using in this combination for the ESXi?
So there is no flavor of Linux that we use over here. It's basically the free Linux that they have, and there they are integrating Hyper-V. So it's not like that they are using CentOS or Debian or Alpine Linux or Kali Linux or something, all that stuff. No, those are all distributions. VMware is not using that. So they have their own free Linux that they have, and they just merged the hypervisor capabilities. They are not using any known distributions which are out there. They are not doing that.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, let me talk about a couple of terms. Okay, so those are important to understand. Now, the first term is ESXi. What is ESXi? ESXi is a type 1 hypervisor. It is a complete operating system. This is the one that gives me capabilities to create a lot of virtual machines on the ESXi, on the physical box. Okay, so ESXi is the hypervisor, which is basically doing the things for me. Okay, this is what ESXi is. Now, to manage an ESXi, you basically have to open a browser tab. I'll show that to you later, but I'm telling you now. You have a tab on a browser that you will open, and from there you can manage it. Okay, for anything and everything now, it's you go to your browser and you put the URL, and that's about it. Okay. Similarly is the case with the ESXi. Now, think for a moment. In your customer's environment, if you have 700 physical boxes or 1,000 physical boxes of ESXi, you have hundreds and thousands of virtual machines. Okay, let's say you've got 1,000 physical boxes, and on every box you are running, for example, 30 virtual machines. So 10,000, or no, 1,000 into 30, that is basically you're running 30,000 virtual machines. Okay, if you have got 10,000 ESXis, and on every ESXi, if you're running 30 virtual machines, so you are basically running how many? 30,000. Earlier it was 3,000. Yeah. So here you're running 30,000 virtual machines. So the question is, how would you manage all this? I mean, if you have hundreds and thousands of ESXi, you need something, to manage a central component so that, very easily you can manage the VMware environment. So in comes vCenter. Okay. So vCenter is basically a complete software, and it is only the management piece. From here, you can manage your entire VMware infrastructure. So this can manage up to 2,000 physical boxes of ESXi, 35,000 virtual machines. Okay. If you have more ESXis, you will have to deploy vCenter 01, 02, 03. Multiple vCenters can be deployed, and every vCenter can have a maximum of 2,000 ESXis, that it can support. Okay. So this is what a vCenter is. So ESXi is the one which is giving you the flexibility to create multiple virtual machines on one hardware, and to manage those physical ESXis. If you have hundreds and thousands of them, you need a central console, a central portal, and that is what a vCenter is. Okay. Any questions on vCenter or ESXi? Let me know.
Yeah, having a small doubt, like in the physically, like our server boxes will be in the data center, right? Like ESX servers. Right. For example, our servers will be in the US or in the UK. We are sitting over here in the Hyderabad or Bangalore or Pune or whatever in the locations. Like we having our one requirement, like hello, we have to install one ESXi server. Then how to proceed over there and how to do the installation.
I'll talk about it. When I'll come to the installation of the ESXi, I'll explain you how to remotely install an ESXi.
Yeah, I've got questions. The vCenter. So how does it work? Do you need to install it, or does it work on the browser?
Yeah, so you have to import it. I'll come to this point and I'll explain you. For now, I'm only explaining you the terms so that you know what these terms are, how the installation will happen, what the components are of a vCenter, what the history has been, why did they change, from where you get the ISO, how do you verify the interoperability, all those things I'll talk about. Not right now, when we'll reach there. Okay. So for now, I just want you to be familiar with these terms. Just have a basic understanding what these terms are. Okay, so that you don't get confused. So we understand what an ESXi is, and we know what a vCenter is. There is something called as a vSphere. Now, what is vSphere? Let me answer this question now. Okay, so for example, let's say that you have a laptop. Okay, and on this laptop, you are running Windows 10. Now, on this laptop, you need Word, you need Excel, you need PowerPoint, you need Outlook, and you need OneNote. Okay, you need these applications as well. So what will you do? Anyone would tell you, basically buy MS Office. You buy MS Office, and MS Office will give you all these applications that you need. Okay, what is MS Office? MS Office is a bundle. Okay, you do not use MS Office. You install MS Office and then you use Word, Excel, PowerPoint. End of the day, your intention is to use Word, Excel, PowerPoint. But there is no application as such as called MS Office. This is a setup. This is a bundle. You execute this bundle and then everything gets installed. Okay. Similarly, if you replace MS Office with vSphere, okay, and you replace these components with ESXi, vCenter, Replication Appliance, Bitfusion, VM tools, and a couple more. Okay. So all these are basically the components which are there in a vSphere. So it's like a bundle that you get. Okay. So ESXi is my hypervisor, which gives me the flexibility to create multiple virtual machines on one hardware. Those hardwares, if I have a lot of them, how do I manage them? It's the vCenter. Okay, that's a management plane from where I will be managing them. And then all these applications, I mean, all these softwares, ESXi, vCenter, and a few more, they are basically bundled, and the bundle is called vSphere. That is how it is. Any questions anyone has?
Because I'm sorry, I might have misheard. Could you please tell me the number that you were talking about? vCenter can handle 2000 VMs or 4000
ESXi's,
ESXi's, yeah,
2000
2000,
ESXi's
right?
and 35,000 virtual
35,000
machines.
VMs, yeah,
Correct.
sure.
Every vCenter can handle that.
And everything else bundled is called vSphere.
vSphere is a bundle. So when you will reach out to VMware, they will say that, we will give you vSphere, where you buy vSphere licenses. And in vSphere, you will get ESXi, vCenter, replication, all these packs are involved. All these softwares are involved. Okay. So end of the
Sure.
day, you are working on ESXi and vCenter, but they all club in one term, and that term is called vSphere.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
No problem.
I have a question.
Mhm.
You don't mind? Yeah.
Go for it. Go for it.
Under the you call the vSphere is a grouping actually bundle. Like Word, Excel, Access, PowerPoint, and Outlook. But so is it only for this or any other, whether it is open source, also open source programs like LibreOffice or other things can be also bundled here, the vSphere. Is that possibility?
No, vSphere is a VMware specific term. So VMware only bundles its own softwares. It will never bundle any other application that it does not use. Okay. So for open source, it has to get validation, certification, approval, permissions to bundle all those things. So why it would do that? End of the day, VMware is trying to sell its own softwares, no? Why would it sell the open source?
Yes. And I was just thinking about whether technically it's possible, which is some people do use it. Anyway, if it is not the case, I understand as a company makes profit, of course.
Yeah.
And that's their main objective. So it's not possible.
No. vSphere only has VMware products. That's it. Nothing else.
Nothing else. Okay. How many of them are? Was it 3,000? You mentioned last time. Was it the ESXi or the VMware itself? The number of.
So VMware is the name of the company.
Oh, the name of the company. Yeah. Okay.
Their hypervisor is called ESXi. To manage ESXi's, you get vCenter.
vCenter, yeah.
And this is all clubbed together and called vSphere.
Okay. All right. Very clear. Thank you
So
very
is it,
much.
so is it
No problem.
possible to get maybe to get EXSI without the vCenter? Is that possible?
No.
So you have to go for if you go for the vSpare, you must get both.
There's something called as a pack. Now, after the Broadcom acquisition, they have changed all that. If you would have asked me this question 4 months back, I would have said yes. But now it's a big no because the licensing model has changed.
So today, if
Okay.
you want to maybe get the type 1 hypervisor, and maybe
So now what would happen is there are only 4 basic packs available from Broadcom. You have to choose 1 out of 4 packs. There is no a la carte system now. That let me give this, give me this, give me that. No, that's not possible. They have couple of packs now that they have created, and you have to choose one of them. Okay, so it's like going to a mall and you have a t-shirt size. I mean, the t-shirt will be S, medium, large, extra large, double XL, triple XL. Now you cannot say that I want a t-shirt size which is not triple XL and it's not double XL, it's in between. I mean, shopkeeper will say, no, sorry, I cannot offer you that. I only have double XL or a triple XL. If you want a very custom made, sorry, go to a tailor and basically, get yourself a t-shirt stitched or something like that, right? So they would say, no, we don't have that. Similarly is the case with Broadcom. They have multiple they have got very selected options now. Either you take this or you take that, or it's thank you. Okay. I'll be talking about those packs now. Yeah, go for it.
Sorry, Vikas, so totally irrelevant question now, but I was thinking the session is till 8 p.m. Is it going to extend one for today, or it's the session till 9?
It is till 9. I mean, I'm sorry if you were told till 8. Fine, we can wrap up till today. I mean, I've got no problems. But the class would basically be for 3 hours. Okay. So Indian time, it will start at 6 p.m. and it will be till 9 p.m. Okay. This will be on Saturday and this will be on Sunday. Because if I don't take the class for 3 hours, I will not be able to cover up the course. Okay. So it will be 3 hours on both the days.
Okay, yeah, we can continue. Not an issue. I just wanted to check on the time, so I was thinking
Sure.
till 8.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I was under the impression till 9. Yeah, thank you for continuing. Thank you for supporting.
Thank you.
All right, so let's move on. So yeah, so to answer that question, now VMware has got very specific bundles, very specific packs. You have to buddy choose from there, and that is how it is. I mean, there is no a la carte system now in VMware. They have basically done away with that. Okay. So now what the a la carte options are, let me basically show you a screenshot. Okay. And that screenshot should answer your questions. Because after the acquisition, Broadcom basically changed anything and everything. Okay. So it changed big time. So these are the options available for you. Okay. You see these packs? This is what you need to basically choose from. Okay. Tell me what you want out of these 4. And this is what you will get in those bundles. Okay. There is no option of picking that only give me vCenter. Only give me that. And that's not possible now. Okay. So they've basically changed it now. And what they're saying is that, you have per core and this is what the price will be. And, depending on how many cores you are using, you can basically use this.
So when we have to choose this, I think like as the VMware already we have the license. So when we're going to renew them, that time they will ask us to choose or when it will
Yes.
implemented.
Till the time you have the contract, a valid contract with VMware, you can absolutely use your old licenses. No concerns over there. But look at the end date of that contract. The day it expires, Broadcom will say, pick either one of them or thank you.
Okay, so as per your knowledge and experience, like usually a normal organization, which package they are using? I think vSphere Foundation or Set Standard.
Depends on what your requirement is. End of the day, what your requirement is, what your business use case is, it will basically depend on that. There is no a yes or no answer over here. There's no straight answer over here because I don't know what your requirement is. I don't know how heavy your utilization is, what all components are needed. So there are too many things involved. What your future plan is. So there are too many things involved. So depending on your client, how much they're willing to spend, what are, how deep their pockets are, what your
Yeah.
utilization is, what your design is. Basically, it will depend on that. And then you basically decide and you talk to the sales folks. And of course, sales folks will give you a discount. The numbers that I'm showing you, this is an MRP, right? So this is something that you will definitely get a discount. But again, the discount will depend on what your history has been with VMware, how aggressive as a customer you have been with VMware, how high your utilization is. Based on that, sales folks will take a call, how much they can give you a discount.
That's per core MRP, right? In the very first column, per core. So I think
Yeah, it's per
$50 is
core.
per core. And how many cores
Yeah.
do we have it will multiply by number of the cores, right?
Yeah. It depends on how many cores you are running in your environment.
Okay. So are you going to cover this licensing as well in this program VCP, or it's excluded?
I did not get your question.
Are you going to cover licensing as well in this training module or not?
See, I can only talk about what the licensing options are, and here they are. I mean, I cannot go any further in the depth because there is nothing to go in the depth now. I mean, this is the license that you will have. These are the license options that you have. Your sales folks, your architects will basically talk to VMware. They'll get you a license. You will get that license key. How to put that license key, I'll show that to you. You will put that license key and you are good for it. I mean, I really did not understand your question. What else would you like me to explain over here? I mean, if you can help me understand.
So let's say, do you know, like per core license, how many VMs we can run on the ESX side, right? That the license
No.
depend on that as well.
So no. The VMs are not dependent over here. No, there is
No, I
nowhere
think
mentioned over here that you could run
no.
a
Let's say,
certain amount of VMs.
for example, Enterprise Plus. What is the difference between Enterprise Plus and Standard? What are the difference? So are you going to cover that? So what, let's say, essentially what features? So that I am about to understand.
No.
So we can
So
plan it. Yeah.
no. So here you have got these options over here.
Mhm.
Now I cannot talk about HCX, ARIA suite, ARIA operations, SDDC manager, vSAN, enterprise. If I start talking about all these products, it'll be in a lot of depth. Okay. This training is only focusing on vCenter and ESXi. I am not focusing on other VMware products. VMware has got 78 products. If I start giving you an overview of 78 products, I'll need at least 2 or 3 weekends, to do that. Okay. So I am not covering all VMware products. I am only focusing on ESXi and vCenter as a core over here. That's about it. So these are the packs, or these are the applications that you get. How would you use them? What are these applications doing? I think you should refer to the VMware documentation.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Fine. Okay.
I have
I've got a question. Sorry. The
Mm-hmm.
VMware, the vSphere Cloud Foundation, is it similar to the VMware Stack?
So vSphere Foundation is basically their most advanced pack. Here you basically get all the basic, or I should say the high-end applications that VMware has to offer you. Again, not everything is included. So for example, telco is not included over here. If you are running a telecom provider, okay, you will have to basically reach out to VMware and they will basically give you a different stack for that. This is basically for generic customers that, if you have a requirement, this is what you can get. So this is called a VCF. So with a VCF pack, these are the applications that you will get. Okay, these are the applications that you will get. Every application has a different task. It has a different requirement. You need to be trained on that application. You should know how it works. And again, you have got separate trainings for all these applications. Okay, no two applications are the same in VMware. They're doing two different jobs. Okay, so like I mentioned, depending on your requirement, you will basically choose a pack. You will get the applications and you would install and you would run them.
So for instance, maybe you want to use the VMware Stack. Maybe you want it to be on the cloud, for instance. So from my
So
understanding,
you will get this stack.
Yeah, okay.
So this stack, if you buy it, then you are basically getting licenses. Okay, so let me give you an example. Let's take an example that you download Windows 11 ISO. I'm just giving you an hypothetical scenario. Okay, you buy a Windows license key, for example. Okay, now today you have a laptop at your home and you install Windows 11 and you use this key. Okay, now for example, this laptop, you accidentally drop it and it breaks. Okay, this laptop is not available. Now what you do, you buy another laptop, you get the ISO, Windows 11 ISO, that's for free, you can download it. And then you use the same key and you install Windows 11 over here. You can do the same thing on the cloud. You go to Azure, you create a Windows 11 VM over there, and you put your own key over there. So the point is, you get the key, which is important for you, right?
Yeah,
ISO, it's not important. You can download it and you can use it. You can download that ISO n number of times, and you can use this key at your on-prem, on a new laptop, on the cloud. So key is important for you. Similarly, when you buy VCF, VCF is giving you license keys. Okay. Now you can design VCF as a stack at the on-prem. Now you're not happy with the on-prem. You say, no, there's too much of headache in the on-prem. I don't want to manage it. Fine. You close on-prem and you start running it on Google Cloud and you run the same key over here. The key that you had over here, now instead of using it at the on-prem, you're running it on Google Cloud. Tomorrow, Google Cloud is not giving you good services. You're not happy with Google. You say, okay, Google, I ditch you. I go to Azure and I'm using my same key over here. So Broadcom is giving you the flexibility that you buy the key once and you use it wherever you want to. You get the point, buddy?
Yeah, I got it. So doesn't matter your infrastructure, it's just you have your key and you can go anywhere.
Correct. If you want to buy your own hardware and run VMware software, you can do that. You want to use Google's hardware to run the VMware stack, you can do that. Tomorrow, you're not happy with Google's hardware, you ditch their hardware, you go to Azure and you migrate all your VMs to Azure and you use the same key over there. End of the day, you are paying once for the operating system for the software. Wherever you want to use that software, it's up to your wish. On Google, on-prem, anywhere. Again, it depends on, then you will have to get the hardware, of course. Broadcom is not paying for your hardware. Hardware is not included. So you get the hardware wherever you want, on-prem, Google, but you can use the same set of keys wherever you want, feel like.
So how
Okay.
easy it is maybe to migrate from on-prem to cloud? Let's assume Microsoft Azure.
Yeah,
How
I'll
easy
say
is
it
that?
in 3 words: super duper easy.
Okay.
I do this on a weekly basis. Every day I do this. So that is why I am telling you to migrate VMs from VMware on-premises environment to Google, from Google to Azure, Azure to AWS. It is super duper easy. Okay, buddy, that answers your question.
Thanks so much.
No problem.
I have a question on the license part.
Mm-hmm.
So before how many days do we get the notification saying like the license is going to expire? And if we get the notification, does it like affect in any way?
No. So what would happen is you basically get 60 days. And after this acquisition, whosoever is responsible in your environment to make sure that the renewal is happening in on time, they would basically start thinking about it now. So for example, Ranjita, if your application is set to expire in December 2024, I'm giving you an example. Okay. Nobody waits till December 2024. You do not wait for the 11th hour and then you decide what has to be done. Trust me, the conversations begin a year before. So I have customers who have to exit their data center in June 2025. 2025.
Okay.
I am talking to the customers now. I am doing a planning now. This is what I am doing. So you start these conversations at least a year ahead. You never do anything at the 11th hour. So if your licenses are expiring in December 2024, So your deadline will be, I'm telling you practically, your deadline will be by September 2024, you migrate everything off. You at least keep 3 months as a buffer that, if there are any technical challenges, things are not working, some performance issue, you know, someone, if there's any personal loss or anything, that can happen. So you keep a buffer of 3 months or 4 months, but you keep a very aggressive timeline. And that is why you start very early that, this is, I am approaching an after year. I have to do away with my data center. I want to migrate everything. Now you guide me. How do I do? I've got a year. And these are the VMs. This is how I need to migrate. So you start the conversations at least a year before. Nobody does it at the 11th hour. Trust me.
Okay. And let's say in June 2025, it's going to expire. And we going to still, I mean, extend with the same vendor, with the VMware itself. Then how that license works, like the update happens, the new license, whatever we get, that will be like after that date, it'll add up, or it's like whenever.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you already have the contract till June 2025. No. So you've
Mhm.
already paid till there. So
Yeah.
now whatever the money you will be paying will basically start from July 2025.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's any
Right.
discontinuity of the service which they are providing.
Correct. So it is maintained to continuity, and now they are giving you a new pack. Now they say that, I know we whatever I offered you last time, I cannot offer you that. This is what my new offering is. Now you have to pick one of thing. Okay, so you would say, okay, so I have to pick in this. So you go to a mall, you say that, I want a black color t-shirt. The mall guy says, sorry, I don't have a black color t-shirt. I either have red, white, or blue. You pick either one of them. So you say, okay, if black is not there, I'll take this one. So this is how it is.
Okay.
And because how helpful VMware is for supporting the upgrades or moving to a different package.
Trust me, when you pay money, everyone is supportive. The day you stop paying money, nobody will be supportive. So till the time you're paying money to the vendor will do anything and everything for you. Beat any vendor
Yeah,
in the world.
I
Okay.
mean, another question, depending upon the package, is there a support package as well separate for
Yeah,
each
yeah,
of
yeah.
them?
Yeah.
All
So
right.
you will have a support package that you want, immediate support, or you want next business day, or you want, weekend support also. So all things are there. But that
Yeah.
doesn't cost too much.
Okay. So
Yeah,
apart from the package, you'll have to take a support package separately, or support
that's
package is
I
available
think
with.
it is included. Again,
Mm.
Broadcom has not revealed a lot of details. Pricing thing is very close to Broadcom's heart. So if you try, getting the details, they will not tell you anything. They will say, reach out to us. They will give you an email address and they will say, drop us an email or
Mhm.
contact a sales vendor over there. There'll be a form. You fill out the details and someone will reach out to you. Broadcom is not very open with the, money thing. VMware was
Mm.
very upfront, blunt. They would say that, you want this is how much would it cost. This is how it is. You want this, you only take this. You only want that, you only take that. But Broadcom, after the acquisition, has done a lot of changes. So they are like, very keeping the numbers close to their heart. So they don't reveal everything. They would only say, reach out to the sales guys and sales guys will tell you everything. But trust me, support is not that big of an issue. I mean, when you're paying such a heavy amount over here, support
Mm.
price is very negligible. Don't worry about that.
Okay. And are there like account managers by any chance? Because I've seen that with
Of course,
Microsoft and AWS. Okay.
every company is doing the same thing. So
All
every
right.
household has a kitchen, no? Which house
Yeah.
does not have a kitchen? So a guy maybe, living in US, they will have a kitchen, and someone living in India will also have a kitchen at home. So every company will have an account manager, support manager, adoption manager, escalation manager, regional manager, this manager, that manager, all those will be there in every company.
That's right.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
End of the day, their intention is you use their product, you give them money. So any manager, any position they have to create, they will do that. That's very simple.
Yeah. Thanks. Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, let's move on. So these are basically the license packs, that you will have. Now, you basically get a 25 character license key. Okay, so you will get a 25 character key. You have to put that key in, and that is how you activate the license. Nothing fancy, nothing connecting to the internet, all of that sort. Nothing you have to do. Okay, you put in the 25 character key, and that's about it. Okay, and that is it, and the license gets activated. There is only one ISO. okay, that you will get. So for example, here you see over here, you are getting Enterprise Plus. Here you are getting vSphere Standard. So here you are getting vSphere Enterprise Plus, and here you are getting vSphere Standard. Okay, ISO remains the same. There is no difference in ISO. So for example, if you download a Windows 11 ISO, okay, depending on the key that you will enter, either Windows 11 Home will be activated, or Windows 11 Professional will be activated, or Windows 11 Enterprise will be activated. The ISO remains the same. It's the key that you enter which unlocks the functionalities. That's with every vendor, no? So that's with VMware as well. So with, of course, with Enterprise Plus, you will get a different, you will get all the features. With Standard, you will not get all the features. You will get the basic features. So that is what it is, right? So they are basically tempting you to basically use Enterprise Plus, because intentionally they have not giving you all the functionalities in Standard, because Standard means a standard. Like when you buy a car, in car you have got these different models, no? A car will come with with a sunroof. There will be a car without sunroof. There will be a car which will have this you know rear parking and front parking sensors, and it will have a 360-degree camera and all that. So in cars you have got a lot of models. If you want a basic car, fine, you can absolutely get it, but you will not get those advanced functionalities, all these additional things. Similarly, VMware is also tempting you. If you want to have the basic one, sure, you can have it, but I'll not give you the all the additional functionalities to keep your environment automated all the time. If you want that, you have to use Enterprise Plus, and in Enterprise Plus you have to buy this and you have to pay this amount. That's the way it is. Okay, so that is how it is. So it's the same key. I'm sorry, it's the same ISO, but the key that you get basically unlocks it. That is how it is. Just keep that in mind. Yeah. Okay. So now we spoke about the license. We understand how it is and how it doesn't work. Okay. So the next thing is building a lab. How are we going to build a lab? How the things are going to work? How will you do the practicals and all that? Let me answer that question. Okay. So we have one desktop. Okay. Not one. Think about it. We have got one desktop, and that one desktop, either you would have Windows 10 or you would get a Windows 2019 as an operating system. Okay. Then on that operating system, we are installing type 2 hypervisor. And in that type 2 hypervisor, I am creating my virtual machines over here. Okay. I am making sure that these virtual machines can communicate with one another. And this is what I will be using to test vSphere. Okay. We cannot provide you with physical boxes for, if you need 3 ESXIs, we cannot provide you 3 different boxes for ESXIs and then a management console, connecting them on a switch and, then giving you all those functionalities. That is something that we cannot do. Okay. If you take an official training of VMware, wherein in India, you pay minimum $1,000. Okay. If you are in UK, you would be paying at least 2,000 euros over there, or pounds. Okay. That is what the amount you will be paying. When you take the official VMware training, they also give you virtual ESXIs. They don't give you physical boxes. They give you one box. On that, they are basically virtualizing and they are giving you the setup to do the practice. I have taken not one, but many official VMware trainings. That's the reason I know that. Okay. So what we are giving you, VMware will also give you the same thing. Okay. So our lab will be that on one hardware, on one desktop, we will install the operating system, for example, Windows 10 or something. Okay. And then we will install VMware Workstation. And in that workstation, we will be creating multiple virtual machines. And then I will be combining all of them. And then, this is the environment where you need to do your practice. This is how it is. Okay. I'll do the entire installation of the lab in front of you so that, this video is getting recorded. When you will get access to your desktops, you just have to remotely connect to it. Either it will be on TeamViewer, it will be on any desk or something like that. So you basically connect to the machines, and then from there you create your environment and you do practice over there. This is how it will be. When you are done practicing, after 3 or 4 hours, then that desktop will be handed over to someone else, and then they can create their own virtual machines, and they can keep their virtual machines in a different folder, so that nobody is basically disturbing anyone's environment. Okay, you create your own environment, you manage it, it's your own passwords, whatever you want to keep, and that's how you manage it. When you're done, you come back tomorrow again, power on that same machine, then you start continuing your labs again. This is how it is. Okay, so I'll show it to you on how you need to do this and how you need to go about setting it up. Okay. So the first thing is that you will get a Windows or a Windows 10 or a Windows 2019 desktop. This is how it will be. On the desktop, you will have a VMware workstation set up. Okay. So all that you need to do is you need to double click and proceed with the installation of the VMware workstation. Okay. So theoretically, VMware workstation should be installed on your machines. Okay. If it's not installed, you will get the setup. Okay. I do not have the latest version of the VMware workstation. That is why I have to enter the key. But the ones that you will be getting will be the latest version. And then, there you will not have to put in the key because you will choose the personal thing over there. Okay. So you will not have to put in the key over there. But let me show you on how the installation happens for VMware workstation. It's very simple and straightforward. You have to do nothing, keep hitting next, and that's about it. Okay. So hit next, license agreement, whether you like it or you don't like it, you have to agree to the license agreement. Okay, check all these options that you want to install the enhanced keyboard driver, a reboot will be required. That's okay. Just keep the default installations, whatever you have. Next, 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 next. Keep whatever the default is. Do not change anything and just proceed with the installation. So what I'm doing right now is I'm installing my type 2 hypervisor. Okay. Let this installation complete, and after the installation, you need to reboot your machine. Okay, so we'll go with the reboot and then let it come back up. So the icon gets created over here for VMware Workstation. Okay, now I need to put in the license key. I'm going to pause the video. Okay, now let me quickly enter the license key. Okay, so after entering the license key, it would say that, this is done. You hit the finish button, and after installing it for the first time, it would say that you need to reboot your machine. I would say okay. So allow me a minute, let my machine come back, and then I will share my screen again. And let me verify if my machine is up. Okay. Let me share my screen again. Okay. Now, I also wanted to show you the difference between the versions. Okay. So give me a minute. So if I come over here and if I come over here and do a paste and go. So you see this, this is updated till March 2024. This is what the difference is between vSphere Standard and vSphere Foundations. I mean, this is the enterprise one, okay? And this is the Essentials kit. So here you can see the difference that, you know, which version are you getting where. So everything is now basically subscription based, per core based, okay? And it includes which vCenter version. And then here you basically get to the real nitty gritty, that what is included and what is not included. Okay, so you would see that, you know, vSphere Standard, because it is standard, you will not get anything and everything. You will get basic functionalities over there, and that is how it will be. And with Enterprise, of course, you will get everything. That is what the Enterprise Plus is. So yeah, you will get few basic things over here in standard, and then you will not get a lot of things. So this is something that you have to be aware of. Now you can go through this and you can, and your company can decide that are they okay with standard, or do they need foundations. If you see all these applications over here and if you need them, like for example, DRS, this is a very common thing that is absolutely needed by the environment. If you don't have it, trust me, you will have a lot of manual efforts you will have to do. And why this is, I'll tell you after 3 or 4 weekends. Okay. But trust me, this is absolutely, this is needed. Okay. For example, storage DRS. This is also an absolute thing that you need. Now, these things are not included in the standard. This is where VMware is tricking you. This is where VMware says, no, if you want these things, if you want these functionalities, buy Enterprise Plus and then you will get it. If you don't want to buy this, that's fine. It's up to your wish. We're not forcing you. So, I mean, this is how it is. I mean, every company wants to make money. So yeah, these two functionalities are absolutely required. Absolutely, absolutely required. If you don't have it, you will have to do a lot of manual efforts. Of course, this can be achieved. You can still manage your VMware environment, but you have to put in a manual effort over there. So again, everything boils down to what your requirement is, right? So once this VMware workstation is installed, now what you need to do is you just need to double click on this and you need to open your VMware workstation, and this is how it will be. Now in VMware workstation, I need to create my virtual machine. Now, before I create my virtual machines, there are a couple of things that I want to absolutely clarify. What is a virtual machine? Let me answer this question. Okay. The first part of this answer is virtual machine is a logical representation of a physical server. So you buy an HP server, you install operating system, you install application. Okay. When you virtualize it, you get a virtual machine. On that virtual machine, you install an operating system and then you install an application. So virtual machine is a logical representation of your physical server. That's the first part of the answer. Okay. What is the second part? The name says it is a virtual machine. It is not a physical machine. Physical devices are, I mean, you would have, I mean, this is a basic thing. Everyone would have read this as a kid that, you know, a hardware device is something that you can touch and feel, right? A software is something that you cannot touch and feel, right? So when you have a physical device, a physical HP server, you can touch and feel, but you know, there is no way that you can touch and feel a virtual machine because that's a software. Okay. Virtual machine is a combination of files. A lot of files together make up a virtual machine. Okay. So the first part of the answer is virtual machine is a logical representation of a physical server. And a virtual machine is a group of files. A lot of files together make up one virtual machine for you. What those files are, what do they mean? I'll be talking about it. But for now, just keep this in mind that a lot of files make up a virtual machine and it is a logical representation of a server. Okay. Now, we are in Windows operating system. Okay. I am right now in a Windows operating system. This is what I'm using right now. So if you see over here, this is I'm using a Windows 2019 Data Center Edition, something. Okay. Now in Windows, if you create a Word file or if you create a PowerPoint file or any other file, in Windows, you have to save that file, no? So if you want, let's say you open a Word file, or let's take an example. I open a notepad over here. Okay, so for example, I'll open a notepad. Now, I have this notepad over here, and for example, I'll change the font, something. Okay, and I say, this is a test notepad. Fine, fair enough. This is my file that I have. Okay, now I want to save this file. Okay, I want to, whatever I did, whatever I've done on this notepad, on this notepad, I want to save it. Now, when you will click on the button save, Windows will ask you that where do you want to save this file? Now in Windows, if you have to save the file, end of the day, you are saving it on your volume, which is your C drive. Of course, you can choose desktop, downloads, documents, pictures, blah, blah, blah. But end of the day, this is everything going in the C drive, which is your hard drive. This is where everything is going end of the day, right? So you have to basically give a location where you are going to save your files because you are in Windows. You create a virtual machine, you create any other file, or you create a Word file, an Excel file. When you save that file, Windows will prompt you. Where do you want to save it? Okay. I say that I'm saving the file on the C drive. What is a C drive? C drive is a volume for me. On Windows, I have a hard drive. I format the hard drive with the NTFS file system, and then it becomes a volume for me, like a C drive, D drive, EGF, whatever that letter is. So that becomes a volume for you. You are basically saving the file within the C drive. Okay. Now you are about to create a virtual machine. Think about it. So what you're doing now is on VMware Workstation, you are about to create a virtual machine. Now, what is a virtual machine? It is a group of files. Now, end of the day, you have to save those files somewhere, no? If you are creating files, you will be asked that where do you want to save this file? Similarly, like a notepad, no? If I want to save this notepad, of course, I have to tell the location that where it has to be saved because it will be creating a text file in the end. Similarly, if I'm creating a virtual machine, I will be prompted that where on Windows you want to save those group of files. Because remember, you are creating a virtual machine and that machine is a group of files. Any questions on this theory part, what I explained right now?
No.
So let me proceed over here. So I am creating a virtual machine. I will choose the custom option. I'll hit next. It says hardware compatibility. I'll choose VMware 17. I'll hit next. I will say I will install the operating system later. That's fine. Now it says which operating system are you planning to install? So for example, I'll say that I am planning to install Windows 2019 as an operating system. Okay. So I am creating a virtual machine in my VMware workstation. Keep that in mind, okay? So I'm creating a virtual machine in VMware workstation. So it is asking me that the virtual machine that you will be creating, end of the day, you will be installing an operating system. No, when you create a virtual machine, either it will be Windows or a Linux operating system that you will be deploying. So you have to specify that which operating system are you planning for the installation. So accordingly, you choose that one. Now, look at this screen over here. This is the screen that I was asking you. Now it is asking you, where do you want to save this file? Because virtual machine is a group of files. You are creating virtual machine on a Windows. So of course you have to save those files somewhere, no? So what I will do is I will click on browse. I will go to C drive. It can be anything, no? I have a lab folder over here. I'll create a new folder over here and I'll call it DC01, for example. I'll similarly name this thing. Hit next. Next. Here I have to give processors. So for example, I'll choose 2 and 2. So I get 4. I'll give 8 GB RAM, for example. Hit next, 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 next. I'll choose hard drive as 30 GB because I know 30 GB is more than enough. Hit next, and hit finish. So what I did, I created a virtual machine DC01. Where is this virtual machine? So if you look at that banner that comes up, it says in the C lab DC01. So let me take you over there. If I go to C, if I go to lab, if I go to DC01, you see these files? This is what a virtual machine is. Every virtual machine is basically a combination of group of files. That is what basically makes up a virtual machine. Okay. What these files are, why do we need it? We'll be talking about it later, not right now. But this is what a virtual machine is. When you create it on Windows, it will be asking you for a location. Where do you want to save it? Because I am creating a virtual machine in VMware Workstation, which is running on a Windows machine. Doubts, confusion, question? All right, everyone, we'll keep it till here and let's meet tomorrow and we'll proceed with the lab installation. So tomorrow we'll complete the lab and I'll tell you that, which virtual machines we are creating, why are we creating, what are we going to install, how the installation will happen, from where would you get the ISOs and everything, how the communication would happen and everything, blah, blah, blah. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Okay.
One more thing, Vikas, in 1 minute. Just a simple question. Regarding that, we are doing like every month we are doing the patching activities, right? In the server.
No.
Not here, like in the how far?
Not
like,
even in the production. So remember, Windows is a different thing. ESXi is a different thing. When we'll get to that section, I'll explain you why you should not patch VMware every month. There's a reason behind this. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So there is a reason that why you should not be patching it every month, and you do not patch VMware every month. You only patch VMware once a year, and if you're very aggressive, you will do twice a year. That's it. Don't patch VM ESXi every month, every week. You don't do that.
Every week, not under like they are telling something like 6 months or 1 year. There we have to do the patching activities for the
Correct.
ESXi.
Yeah. Once a year you can do that. Okay, no concerns over there. Once a year it is okay, but you never do it, every month. Why? When we'll get to that section, I'll explain you. After 7 weekends, I will explain you this.
Yeah, I have a question regarding the VMware stack. So why will you want to transfer the VMware to the cloud? I know in the cloud we can also create a virtual machine, maybe server, client machines and other stuff, Windows 10 and other stuff. So what are the benefits, or why would the company move VMware to the cloud, knowing they can do the same thing in the cloud?
Okay. There is something called as 7 Rs. Okay. Go to Google and type 7 Rs. Okay. And type 7 Rs of transformation in IT. You will get 7 Rs as refactoring, rehosting, replatforming, relocating, all these are the 7 Rs. When you think about an application, okay, when you deploy an application in your environment, you fine tune the application as per the platform. So for example, when you deploy an application, for example, Exchange, SQL, database, Nginx, any other one, you basically fine tune the application as per the VMware's platform. If you have been running that application for years, okay, and if I ask you to move that application to natively AWS, this basically means you are refactoring your application. You are replatforming your application. That means you're picking up that application from VMware stack and moving it to AWS stack. Now, when you move to the AWS stack, there are things that you will have to consider: performance, making sure that everything looks okay. There are no bugs. The application does not encounter errors. You are running on the same operating system. You might be having a legacy operating system. Okay. All these things have to be taken into the consideration, and then only you can move. If you are already an existing customer, trust me, overnight you cannot change and you cannot move to the AWS. AWS has been there since 2007. That was the first time AWS cloud was officially there. And VMware is there. We are talking about in 2024. If AWS was such a hit and it could do everything for you, VMware as a company should have died long time back. You get the point, buddy? But VMware did not die. It is still here. Trust
Yeah,
me,
yeah.
the way you think, it's not that easy. I mean, trust me on this part. It's absolutely not that easy. Okay. And as per the last official data from VMware, across all the customers in the world, VMware platform is running 85 million virtual machines. Okay, 85 million virtual machines are running on VMware platform. Trust me, overnight you cannot move this. You would have heard the hype of Kubernetes. Everyone talks about Kubernetes and it is so great and blah blah blah. Kubernetes has been there in the market for 7 years. If it was such a great thing, why is everyone not moving to Kubernetes? Why are people still using VMware? Why is VMware still making profit? Why hasn't the applications like Citrix and everyone, why they haven't died? Why the companies are not perished? They're still here. No, trust me, thinking about and studying about something is one thing. Implementing and running your production on that thing is a second thing. They are not two same things. Okay, in studying in theory Kubernetes, oh, it's brilliant. When you start running it, then you actually get to know what the issues are. Okay, and how simple and it is easy to manage VMware as compared to other things. That is why I was answering the question earlier. Why don't you run everything as open source? Because in open source, who's going to support you? Tomorrow you have a firmware issue, a driver issue, a bug issue. Who's going to help you with it? If you have any problems with VMware, you can reach out to the technical support. You can create hue and cry about it, and you can get escalations team. Even you can get engineering folks on the call. People who write code can be on the call with you to troubleshoot your issue. They can do a hot fix right with you on the call, and they can push the code in your VMware environment. They can even do that. Can you do that on open source? Never ever. So there are so many challenges, no? So thinking about it from one point of view, it's very easy, but to do it practically, you can never do that. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, yeah.
And this training is every Saturdays and Sundays only, right? For 3 years?
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. Saturday 3 years and Sunday 3 years.
Okay, only this weekends, right? Okay.
Yeah, buddy. I have to also
Thanks.
make some money.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Vikas.
All right, everyone. I'll see you tomorrow at 6 in the evening Indian time, and then we'll continue. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, Vikas.